this, Wu, sitting outside the door, raised his eyes and said, "How about that old guy?" Tsunade took off the mask on his face and said, "You kid is really cruel, and the waist will be the main thing in the future. More than 70% of the bones on the back are said to be comminuted fractures. It is better to say that it is completely turned into fragments." After a pause, Tsunade shook his head and continued, "Anyway, he can't stand up anymore, he can only spend his life in a wheelchair." Ha ha ha, Asuma seems to only be able to spend time in a wheelchair now, they happen to be a company. Wu laughed. Under Tsunade's frantically throwing the Akugan's gaze, Wu said again, "Is this guy still useful? If it is of no value, just let me. Sending Onoji directly to that world should be able to earn an evolution value of about 2%. You kid, don't mess around. He is an important bargaining chip with Rock Shinobi." Tsunade stopped quickly. "I'm afraid that this guy who doesn't play cards according to common sense will rise up and really send Ohaiki to the west." At that time, the Tapu Rock Shinobi was extremely furious, and it would be troublesome if he wanted to have a dead fish. It can be, but it needs some compensation. Speaking of the second half, Wu almost stuck to Tsunade's ear and said softly. Tsunade's ears were numb, he pushed Wu and ran back to his tent with an invisible expression. Wu smiled when he saw this, and slowly followed. Seeing that white angel dress of Tsunade's other medical ninjas, Wu couldn't help but move inside. It's a pity that Tsunade always wears ninja clothes. Ah, after smiling inwardly, Wu walked into Tsunade's tent and pulled her into his arms more proficiently. Even in the current year, Onaki is the longest-lived Tsuchikage in Iwaigakure's history, and as the grandson of first Tsuchikage and the disciple of second Tsuchikage, he sits more firmly than the shadows of other villages. Therefore, after he was arrested, Rock Shinobi's executives had almost no objections, and they all advocated peace talks with Konoha. One thing happened before this. According to the detective ninja report of the Hayaga clan, Four Tails still has Jinchura Ki in his mouth and regained control of the body. However, it was observed that he also walked at the gate of Gaimanwan this time, and after regaining his body, Lao Zi did not return to Rock Shinobi, but left the battlefield and headed towards the country of the river. Such behavior, apart from defection, I am afraid that there is no second explanation. But this is Rock Shinobi's own business, Konoha doesn't care. 5 days later, because Onoki was arrested, Huang Tu, the son of Tsuchikage, who was temporarily in the highest command post, sent a signal to Konoha, willing to lead a small army to go to Konoha barracks alone to talk about it. Of course, you have to go back to your father, third Tsuchikage Onaki. Orochimaru, as the frontline commander, immediately agreed and added a requirement: Lois can only bring 2 guards, and allow Rock Shinobi to withdraw from this battlefield area 30 kilometers away, because this shows that Rock Shinobi has enough sincerity. Since his own Tsuchikage was arrested, Rock Shinobi naturally did not dare to talk nonsense and agreed to Orochimaru's request. So, after nearly 10 days have passed, the representatives of Konoha and Rock Shinobi formally negotiated a truce in the Konoha barracks. Huang Tu and Orochimaru sat opposite each other in the main tent, and Huang Tu has only one left and one right behind him, and 2 Jonin elite ninjas from Rock Shinobi serve as guards. In the barracks where Konoha ninjas gather, this person is nothing but a virtual reality. Before the negotiation begins, Lord Orochimaru, I want to confirm my father's situation. Huang Tu frowned, worried. Hee, of course. Orochimaru sneered twice and gestured to the men next to him. The Chunin walked quickly out of the main account. When seeing Orochimaru's sneer, Huang Tu, and the 2 Rock Shinobi Jonin standing behind him, the inner anxiety became more serious. Not long after, the 3 of Huang Tu saw Wu walking in with a wheelchair and smiling. On the wheelchair, it was the third Tsuchikage Onoji who was fastened with a special medical steel plate to his back. Dad, Master Tsuchikage. Huang Tu and the other 2 Rock Shinobi Jonin were shocked, and immediately wanted to meet them. Calm down, everyone at Rock Shinobi. Tsunade managed to get his backbone back with great difficulty, but now his bones are still the same as porcelain, they may break at any time. Although Wu said so on his mouth, he pushed his hands abruptly. The next moment, the wheelchair and the Onaki on it suddenly slid towards the yellow soil in them. The 3 people of Huang Tu were shocked, and they were able to help Onogi in the wheelchair. Tsunade and Orochimaru specifically ordered not to tell Rock Shinobi the truth that Onaki's paralysis has not been cured, so as not to irritate each other. That is not conducive to truce negotiations. Well, everyone, let's talk about the truce agreement now. Orochimaru hoarse voice line. A Rock Shinobi Jonin frowned, and said, our 23 Tsuchikage adults are not in good condition now, can we accommodate for a while? Orochimaru's eyes like a snake haunted him. The aura belonging to the cage-level powerhouse instantly suppressed the opponent. If so, you can rest in Konoha's barracks. Orochimaru's words are completely threatening. Just kidding, such a major event as truce negotiations can take half a month at the shortest time. For compensation, land cessation, reporting, and formalities, a series of incidents must be handled carefully, otherwise one will be exploited. And now Konoha is in a tight state in the south, how can there be time to wait for you? Huang Tu gritted his teeth and said, okay, but please allow my father to be brought back to Uegakur to rest. He needs a rest now. Orochimaru smiled and said, I'm not a devil, so let the old man go back and rest, and don't come out to make trouble in the future. Onogi is now a waste man, let him go back. It can also play a deterrent effect on the top of Rock Shinobi. What's more, it's useless for him to stay here. Huang Tu immediately asked one of his subordinates, Jonin, to send Onoki away, and he and the remaining Rock Shinobi Jonin began preliminary negotiations with Orochimaru on the truce agreement. Mr. Orochimaru, I'll leave it to you and Tsunade here. I'll go one step ahead. Wuan chuckled lightly. In less than 2 years, N.A.N has worked hard on 3 battlefields. Orochimaru chuckled. The reason Tsunade did not participate in the truce negotiations was because there were still many injured Konoha shinobi who were waiting for her to be treated. By the time of the shift and rest, the ninja suit on his body was stained with a lot of sweat. Go back to your tent. Just took off the ninja vest and was about to replace it with the inner shirt, but Wuan suddenly came in. Tsunade, who was about to take off his inner shirt, immediately stopped the movement in his hand and said angrily, you kid, can't you shout outside before you come in? I yelled in my heart. Wuan's answer made Tsunade once again the idea of wanting to beat the kid. Rock Shinobi is basically no problem here. They don't have Ohaiki and Lao Zi. The remaining cage level is nothing but 5 tails Jinchuriki. There are 2 cage levels here, you and Orochimaru, no matter what they want. Kizuna, it should be easy to deal with. Wuan pulled Tsunade to his side. Are you going to the southern battlefield? Tsunade immediately guessed Wuan's plan. Well, there are a few people after all, and I don't want them to die. Wuan smiled. Tsunade pursed his lips and was silent for a moment. She is not a person who is good at talking, and in the end she can only simply say in a caring tone, be careful. As soon as he finished speaking, Tsunade's eyes widened in astonishment, because she felt that Wuan's face was enlarged to ultimate in her line of sight. In the next moment, something enters my own crumbs and is absorbing it frantically. Tsunade felt that both his feet were soft, and then he could only let the other party make trouble. Unlike Yurihong's type who likes to savor carefully, Tsunade gives Wuan the feeling that she wants to eat her in one bite, and I have to eat thoroughly, with no leftovers at all. The flower-like sweetness that is different from the evening red, the intense sweetness like drugs, really makes people want to receive it. Of course, it is no longer possible to have a closer relationship in the barracks. Half an hour later, Wuan's face was refreshed, but he left the barracks with extreme discomfort and rushed to the south alone. And Tsunade was alone in the tent, and it took a long time to come back to God. He turned to the mirror and said angrily to himself, the dead boy, it's all swollen, how can I see people? She didn't use the medical ninjutsu that she was good at to treat, but wanted to slowly recall this feeling. Immediately, Tsunade picked up the pen and paper and began to write a report on the battle situation. Among them, he focused on writing a stroke for Wu An. Although Wuan was supposed to be the head skill, Suna 490 still wanted to add something to the dammit guy who made him love and hate. Ninja, who was in charge of transmitting information, flew back to Konoha from the border of the country of soil only 2 days and 1 night. To be honest, Sarutobi Hiruzen is not in a good mood right now. Because of the repeated mistakes in this war, it is indeed impossible for him to sit down in this Hokage position. Coupled with the affairs of the youngest son Asuma, it is impossible for him to be happy. Hokage-sama. Information from the frontline battlefield of the land has been sent. Umbu Ninja delivered the secret letter he just received. Oh, Sarutobi Hiruzen's increasingly old face flashed with surprise, and then the secret letter was opened. Onoki was actually caught. After quickly reading the little content above, Sarutobi Hiruzen fell into a deep shock. Although Onoki is weaker than 3rd Raikage, but that's an old and cunning fox. He was beaten by Wuan with half-body discomfort. Moreover, according to Tsunade's statement in the letter, even if Onoki could not die this time, he would not be able to stand on the front line anymore. It is not a short distance from the land to the southern coastal zone of the Land of Fire. One has to pass through the official road next to Konoha. At this time, Wuan only needs to change the road again, and it takes less than a day to go back to see Shirihong. After all, the two have not seen each other for nearly a year and a half. But plus the time to go back and forth and get together, at least 3 days will be spent again. After a few moments, Wuan decided to settle the matter first. If Wuan has truly owed someone's favor since he traveled into this world, there is no doubt that it is Might Guy. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Konoha gave some comfort money, and Wuan didn't feel that they owed them at all. Because his original parents both died for Konoha, that little money deserves it. It can be said that Might Guy taught himself 8 inner gates regardless of return. It can be said that Wuan owes the only and the last favor. Wuan never thinks he is a good person, but if he owes the thing of humanity, he will definitely pay it off. Sorry, Red, wait for me. Glancing at the forked road leading to Konoha, Wuan hurried towards the southern coastal battlefield. 2 more days passed. Wu-Wen finally reached the southern coastal battlefield of Konoha vs Mist Shinobi alone. Master Wu-Wen. Several Konoha shinobi guards at the entrance of the camp shouted to Wu-Wen with a look of worship and admiration. This world is like this, whoever is strong can gain respect. After third Raikage was killed, third Tsuchikage suffered heavy losses, and it also spread here. This makes many Konoha's younger ninjas admire Wu-Wen even more. 13 years old. You can kill one shadow and damage one shadow at the age of 13. Where is the main business? Wu-Wen nodded and walked into the camp to ask them. Yes, Master Wu-Wen, that red barracks is. One of them, N.A.N, pointed towards the largest red tent. Wu-Wen nodded again and walked in that direction. Suddenly, a man who was half a head shorter than Wu-Wen and bowed his head silently, walked with his head buried, and he was about to walk in front of Wu-Wen without any intention of giving way. See the familiar white hair. Wu-Wen's heart moved, and he turned sideways slightly, protruding his right foot slightly. Puff! Baimao fell straight to the ground. Suddenly he woke up, got up from the ground, and saw that nasty face. Kakashi did not swear like before, but gritted his teeth. He didn't even shoot the dust on his body, and was about to turn his head and leave. Why are you the only one? Wu-Wen asked with his back to Kakashi. Kakashi clenched his fists. Lin is all my fault. Sure enough, did it become like this? Wu-Wen said inwardly. Uchiha Madara, even Wu-Wen himself, didn't have the confidence to fight him. After all, this old guy still doesn't know how many cards he has. More importantly, he is in the light while he is in the dark. For Lin and Obito, who can be called friends, Wu-Wen has done everything they can do. Not in the mood to comfort Kakashi, Wu-Wen walked into the main camp. Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato were both inside. N.A.N, are you here? Namikaze Minato showed his trademark smile, but this time, it was hard to laugh. The loss of 2 disciples in a row seemed to be a real blow to him. It is said that you are the one who beat the fellow Onoki to half-body. Jiraiya laughed. Wu-Wen single-handedly said, how is the situation now? Jiraiya looked straight and explained, it's more troublesome. Although Mist Shinobi's cage-level masters are not as many as Cloud Shinobi Rock Shinobi, they have many ninjas with the blood limit, such as Mizutsuki, Ghost Lantern, and Kagaya. Difficult to deal with. Moreover, the Ninja 7 are not vegetarians, and their shadows are also personally acting. Their shadow? Is it third Mizukage? Third Mizukage is really the one with the lowest sense of existence in the original book. She only showed her face, and besides that, she didn't even know what her name and ability were. Namikaze Minato nodded. He is a master of the Mizumyasuki clan, Bing Dun, so you shouldn't underestimate it. Wu-Wen heard this and couldn't help but secretly said, that guy is also controlled by Madara, right? No wonder what he thinks. After all, many of Mist Shinobi's behaviors were strange before Obito took control of 4th Mizukage. Probably before that, Madara had already shot Mist Shinobi. By the way, I want to know what work Might Dai and Might Guy are responsible for, Wu-Wen asked. The two blinked, but because it was Wu-Wen's request, Jiraiya quickly handed in a civilian to help Wu-Wen inquire. Soon, the ninja in charge of the civil service said, Master Wu-Wen, Might Dai, and Might Guy were assigned to the logistics and transportation unit because of their lack of strength and experience, but the father and son are in different teams. The second and third teams of logistics. Okay, I know, go down. Wu-Wen waved his hand flatly. After asking, Wu-Wen turned to look at Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, the 2 masters and apprentices. So what? What is the strategy? Namikaze Minato said, after all, Mist Shinobi is fighting against us by crossing the sea, so their food supplies are a major issue, so our strategy is to stick to it and wait until their food is exhausted and wiped out in one fell swoop. After a short pause, Namikaze Minato said again, because Mist Shinobi is short of food, they are very likely to attack our granary, so we have to be on guard for this. Okay, so be it. Wu-Wen waved his hand and left the army from the main account. I have to say, because strategy is a war of attrition that can't be maintained, because Wu-Wen's life is much more leisurely. For a long time, there is no need to go out to fight, just sit in a tent and practice in a realm of illusion. And now, he has been able to deal with the old Golden Lion, which is almost equal to the Admiral level. Kana has 46 years of summer passed without knowing it, and the accident that Wu-Wen expected finally happened. In the fall, 3rd Mizukage led the army to make a surprise attack with the intention of burning Konoha's grain storehouse. On the other side, the soldiers were divided into 2 groups, detouring to attack the logistic defense front. And Might Guy also belongs to that force. The logistics unit, as the name suggests, is in charge of logistics. It is generally responsible for the transfer of food, the transfer of intelligence, or the transportation of weapons to the frontline troops. In other words, it is a mess. Therefore, the overall strength of the members of the logistics force is not high. Usually N.A.N and N.A.N, who are more experienced, serve. But if there is no logistics, it will be very troublesome for the frontline troops to work. Therefore, it cannot be said that logistics is not important, it can only be said that it is not strong. At this time, Konoha's 2nd logistics team had been wiped out across the board. Facing the murderous mist shinobi 7 people, Might Guy, Ebisu, Shiranui Genma, etc., there are only less than 10 surviving Konoha, the corner of the camp where Genin is in ruins. Trembling. We are going to die here. Ebisu was so frightened that tears fell from behind his sunglasses, and his crotch was already wet before he knew it. Although Shiranui Genma on the other side didn't say anything, in fact, he was already in shock. Might Guy gritted his teeth. At this moment, he was already covered in injuries. At this time, although he can open the 8 inner gates, he is only the 3rd gate. At most, it makes the 7 ninja blades feel tricky. Once he takes the 2nd shot, he is over, not to mention, now all 7 are gathered here. Standing in the forefront, Wooleye of the blasting knife droplet holder sneered, "Okay, kids, go to hell." With that said, Wooleye Jinba lifted the droplets in his hand and prepared to blow the Might Guy trio into mincemeat first. 5th gate Shiman, open. At this moment, a green flash rushed, kicking Woolie Jin Ba in an instant. Bang, 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 after breaking several big trees next to him one after another. In the ruins of the ruins, Woolizzy stood up from the pile of trees with blood in his mouth, resisting the pain from his waist, and said, "Yes, who is it?" "The blue beast of Konoha." Might Guy in the 5th gate state raised his hand knife. "Dad!" Might Guy shouted with joy and surprise. The surrounding Ebisu and Shiranui Genma were all surprised. This that 10,000 years Genin? How could he be so powerful? "Guy, I opened the 8th gate to help you escape. Once you escape, don't stop and run to the frontline barracks," Might Guy shouted. He belongs to the 3rd Logistics Unit, so the camp is closer here. After hearing that his son's army was attacked by the ninja swordsmen, he turned on 8 inner gates and rushed over without saying a word. 8 gate. Might Guy was surprised at first, and then desperately shouted, "Dad, no! If you open the 8th gate, you will definitely be." "Guy." Before Might Guy finished speaking, Might Guy interrupted his son's words, turned his back to him, raised his hand and gave a thumbs up, and said heartily, "Now, it is the time for Konoha Blue Beast to carry out Shindo." Dad Might Guy was full of tears, but his heart was full of longing for his father. 6th gate, King Gate catch up. Just as Might Guy was about to open the last 3rd gate in succession, a familiar voice came. Everyone looked up and saw that Wooin was standing at the right of a big tree, looking down from a condescending perspective. "Install!" Might Guy shouted with surprise on his face. "Install!" The watermelon puffer fish ghost was startled, and then said with dread, "Difficult, could it be the Wooin who killed 3rd Raikage and severely damaged 3rd Suchikage, the strongest ninja body art? It's him?" Loquat Shizang carried a decapitating knife on his shoulders, and stared at Wooin on the tree incredibly. "How do you look like a kid who is less than 15 years old?" CDDD fell from the tree and stood in front of Might Guy. Wooin said calmly, "Uncle Dai, I have paid off the favor I owe you." Might froze for a moment, and then grasped Wooin's meaning, nodded, and said, "I didn't teach you 8 inner gates to report, but thank you. Take Guy and leave it to me here." Wooin said again. What he meant, Might Guy could also hear it. It means that he only cares about himself and Guy, and he doesn't want to care about the life and death of other people. And this is how Wooin pays off Might's favor. Although it was not that he would die after the two were in danger in the future, it was just that he rushed over in such a hurry and exaggeratedly. At least, Wooin would not feel that he owed him. Might Guy immediately shouted to Might Guy, Shiranui Kenma and other survivors of less than 10 people, "Everyone, go. Run to the front line barracks." "I'm still here, isn't it naive to want to run?" The Black Thunderya sneered and raised his thunder knife, causing lightning to blast towards Might wearing them. "Yeah." Wooin disappeared in place in an instant, and he didn't wait for the Black Thunder teeth to complete his tricks. A punch in his profile. In an instant, the entire face of Black Leiya was distorted, and 2 big teeth burst out of his mouth. In the next instant, the whole person was beaten to pieces on the mountain wall 100 meters away. Boom dash. A huge hole was punched in the mountain wall. The Black Thunder tooth reluctantly got up from the ground with blood, and looked at the other side in disbelief. How is it possible?" Might Guy was completely stunned. No. Still, I haven't opened 8 inner gates yet." Wooin stood where the Black Leiya stood just now, and sneered, "A guy who will be killed by Genin in the future, don't be troublesome." Immediately, Wooin taught the students and said to the 7 ninja swords who surrounded him, "Okay, come over with the consciousness of killing me, don't be distracted, otherwise, you will die." Not to mention how many points are worth for the 7 ninja swordsmen. Now that I have encountered it, I can simply eliminate all the future troubles. Gang move is enough to illustrate Wooin's strength. Holding the strongest of all ninja swords, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost of Samehata shouted, "Go all out, the strength of the other party is the real, strongest ninja physique. Everyone go." Might Guy shouted, let his son and others follow behind him, and fled towards the base camp where Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato were. "Dad, is N really okay?" Although I have heard of the shocking rumors of Wooin, I haven't seen it in person. The opponent is the famous 7 ninja swordsman. Might Guy's worries dash, it is not without reason. "Don't worry, Guy. and is no less powerful than Master Hokage, and nothing will happen. Might Dai turned his head, confidently giving a thumbs up to his son and others. And, are you so strong already? But it doesn't matter, no matter how big the gap is, I will definitely catch up with my youth. The heart is full of unwillingness, but more is fighting spirit. Thinking of this, Might Guy helped the injured Ebisu, quickly followed his father, and fled towards the base camp. Damn it! The Black Holeia who had just eaten Wuan's punch in the face stood up again, and the thunder knife in his hand detonated the thunder and lightning. Because the teeth were broken, the wind was still venting while roaring. After 2 seconds, a shock of thunder fell and hit Wuan's head. Water-style Great Waterfall Technique. Loquat Juzo, the current user of the beheading sword, also quickly seals, using a master waterway that the next generation of beheading sword owners will use if they do not cut. Combination attacks of lightning style and water style are just like wind style and fire style. Heh, the bones are broken. Wuan volleyed with a fist. The violent waves of air disperse with his own body, resisting all the lightning and water pressure. Being washed by the water pressure of the Great Waterfall Technique, the faces of all the 7 ninja swords were filled with unbelievable colors. How can it be? The pressure from the fist actually produced a gas mask, and resisted both of the 2B level ninjutsu. Are you good at using knives? Wuan asked suddenly. Immediately afterwards, all the positions below the elbows of both hands were covered with armed colors. Just for a moment, he suddenly appeared in front of the nearest Watermelon Mountain Puffer ghost. What? Facing Wuan's rushing fist. The Watermelon Mountain Puffer fish had no time to react, so they could only raise their same hata to resist. Bang! With a muffled sound, the Watermelon Mountain Puffer fish ghost sneered, "It's useless, my same hata can eat the enemy's chakra, even the tail beast is no exception." Regardless of whether it is Tsunade or Might Guy, they all use physique as the main way of fighting. But it doesn't mean that they don't use chakra. The reason why such terrible power can erupt is because they cover chakra on their fists and feet. In order to burst out such superhuman power, once same hata absorbs the chakra of their fists and feet, the position of physical skills will be reduced to less than 1/10. However, in the next instant, same hata uttered a scream of pain. What? Isn't it useless chakra? The Watermelon Mountain Puffer fish ghost did not feel the dumpling muscle absorb chakra from Wuan, and shouted in disbelief. But he couldn't believe it. How could there be a ninja who could achieve this kind of power without covering chakra on his body, using his own body alone? Surrender me. Wuan spoke coldly. Boom dash. The invisible air wave dissipated, and Conqueror's haki made same hata, who had self-consciousness, immediately turned back. The grip opened and barbed instantly, piercing the Watermelon Mountain Blowfish ghost holding his right hand. The Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish ghost with a blood hole pierced in his right hand cried out in pain, and took 2 steps back. Looking at her bloody palm, she was not reconciled. Same hata betrayed herself in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the same hata grip twisted like an eraser and stuck to the back of Wuan's hand like a docile pet. In that way, it seems to be saying, "Come and use me." The surrounding 5 ninja swords and 7 people felt bad, and they rushed out in an instant, waved the ninja swords in their hands, and slashed towards Wuan in 5 different directions. This is how knives are used. Wuan held same hata backhand. In an instant, the dark blue barbs on same hata turned into glowing black, exuding an extremely dangerous atmosphere. Wuan yelled. He, who didn't know any knives, just wielded same hata with brute force. However, when the brute force is strong enough, other things don't matter. When the armed same hata slammed into the knives of the 5 ninja swords, the powerful force drew them out collectively in mid-air. Puff, puff, puff. The 7 ninja swords that were beaten up fell to the ground one after another, looking at Wuan holding same hata in disbelief. What's going on? That powerful force. Is same hata so powerful? Difficult, unbelievable. Is this a power that humans can achieve? Able to flew 5 ninja swords and 7 people with one move. Even at cage level, it can't be done easily. Smell it. Suddenly, same hata opened her mouth, and the black scales on her body became thicker and sharper than before. Same hata excited. As the former owner of same hata, the Watermelon Pufferfish ghost is surprised. Wuan glanced at same hata in his hand, grinned and said, "It seems that this guy is very excited because he is being used by the strong. Although he is a 25 beast, he works well. Taste." As if responding to Wuan's words, same hata's sword body couldn't stop excited, and it shook with excitement. With a twist of the wrist, the destructive power of the armed-colored same hata broke out, so that no one could look down upon it. The knife's shadow passed by, blood surged. This 25 young beast, the first one to kill was his former owner, the Watermelon Mountain Pufferfish ghost. Achieved the special achievement, the original sword kills the master, template character, Monkey D. Garp, completion rate, 63.77%. Damn it. Loquat Shizo did not dare to rush towards with a beheaded knife. Wuan raised his brows and smiled disdainfully. Twisting his wrists, he used the armed Samehada to directly hit the beheading knife directly. When, at the next moment, a picture of Loquat Shizang's eyeballs about to stare appeared, the double-edged collision decapitated the big knife and disconnected. Achieved the achievement Kill Wulai Jinba, template character Monkey D. Garp, completion rate 70.33%, activation skill Haki Domain, skill description Conquerors further, can cause a substantial impact on the mental state of people. When the sixth member of the seven ninja swordsmen, Wulai Jinba, fell. When Wu-Wen was just about to chase after the last of the seven survivors of the ninja knife, the voice of the system rang. In fact, when Wu-Wen killed the three ninja swordsmen, the opponent already felt that they were not opponents and began to run away. But in the end there were still three people who didn't have time to escape. Then used the color of sight and hearing to perceive the last person, that is, the location of the Loquat Juzang, almost already fled to a location 5 kilometers away. SI-90 after all, when they ran away, they didn't go together, but fled separately. After hearing the voice of the system, Wu-Wen also took action. He was not busy chasing after the Shizo, but became interested in the newly acquired skill called Haki Domain. According to the introduction of the system, Haki Field is the evolution of Conqueror's development to a certain extent. Like the red-haired Shanks, his Conquerors can even cause substantial damage, shattering a large ship. After Wu-Wen's Conquerors evolved, it seemed that it was not Shanks that caused physical damage to external errors, but mental damage? It seems that some research has been done. Talking to himself, Wu-Wen was not in the mood to chase Loquat Shizang anyway. He was the only one left, and it was impossible to make any waves. Just when Wu-Wen was about to leave, unexpectedly, a shadow came from a distance and jumped to Wu-Wen's feet, competing with that big knife Samehada. When Wu-Wen killed 3 of the ninja 7, and the remaining 4 began to escape, Wu-Wen threw Samehada away. Originally, he used Samehada to cut people out of nowhere. Holding this thing when it is about to catch up is simply unnecessary. But I didn't expect this product to catch up. Wu-Wen raised his eyebrows. At this time, Samehada was already attached to Wu-Wen's ankle and rubbed Wu-Wen's foot with the handle of the knife, just like Master Tao's favorite dog. Some martial arts novels often say that weapons will voluntarily follow powerful masters. So are you? Wu-Wen asked imaginatively. As if the handle of the knife was bent twice as if it were a head, Samehada expressed obedience. Wu-Wen picked up Samehada and said, "But I don't use a knife, so I usually hang you on the wall as an ornament. There is the strongest one among the 7 ninja swords as an ornament." Of Russell. Samehada shook her body twice, feeling visibly dissatisfied. "What? Any comments?" Wu-Wen asked in an unsentimental tone. Samehada calmed down immediately and nodded like a dog leg. "If you dare to betray me, I'm very interested not to take you apart to see what it looks like inside." Wu-Wen grinned. That expression exuded the danger of making Samehada tremble. "Constantly regretting in my heart, I seem to have made the wrong choice. Master Wu-Wen." At this time, a Konoha Jonin team hurried over. One of them is Akamaike Tangdong, a Jonin under Namikaze Minato. "Hey, this is the 7 ninja swordsmen who have no pairs." Seeing the corpse on the ground, Akamaike Tangdong was surprised at first, and then seeing the barbed sword behind Wu-Wen, he was even more surprised and couldn't believe it. Then, is that the 7 missed shinobi of shinobi? The first big sword Samehada, 6 died and 1 escaped. Wu-Wen was too lazy to say, turning around and saying, "I want to go back to Konoha, and I will leave the report to you." Back to Konoha. Akamaike Tangdong and several other Jonin were frightened and said, "Master Wu-Wen, how can you return to Konoha? The battle with Mist Shinobi is not over yet." "What does it matter to me?" Wu-Wen asked rhetorically. "He came here to save the lives of Might and Might Guy. Give back the favor of the other person who taught him 8 inner gates. Now there is only one of the 7 ninja swords, and it is absolutely impossible to threaten the lives of those 2. The favor has already been paid, and Wu-Wen has no need to stay in this ghost place anymore." This Wu-Wen, this Akamaike Danto was almost speechless. "As Konoha's cage-level master, you are fighting for the village. Do you still need to ask why?" But Wu-Wen did not give Akamaike Tangdong the opportunity to continue talking. The figure quickly shuttled among the trees, and within a few seconds, it disappeared from everyone's field of vision. Captain Tangdong, what should I do now?" Another Jonin asked for instructions. Akamaike Danto wanted to cry without tears. "What else?" "Go back and tell Master Jiraiya and Minato." A few hours later, Might Guy, who fled back to Konoha base camp, saw that Wu-Wen had not come back with Akamaike Tangdong and the others. He became worried and hurried up to inquire. Might Guy screamed excitedly when he learned that Wu-Wen did not have an accident, but instead killed 6 of the 7 in 2 blades. On the front line, Namikaze Minato, who is fighting against 3rd Mizukage, has not yet returned to the base camp. Akamaike Danto can only report to Jiraiya that Wu-Wen returned to Konoha without authorization. Hearing that Wu-Wen had solved the 6 of the 7 in 2 swords, Zilla 3.3 was also surprised. But what he didn't expect was that Wu-Wen actually made a proposition and went straight back to Konoha, and his view of his arbitrary actions was raised to a new level. Forget it, anyway, as the main force of Mist Shinobi, the 7 ninja swordsmen have been solved to almost no one, and it has also brought us a huge advantage. Let this matter be handled by the old man, I am too lazy to take care of it, Jiraiya said to herself with a headache. He didn't want to offend Wu-Wen for this little thing. Long before Wu-Wen became genin, it was often rumored in the village that he would often beat those who dared to mock him or provoke him to death. Chunin can be beaten violently during the genin period. Is there anything else a bullshit dare not do? After spending another 2 days, Wu-Wen returned to Konoha alone. As for the next steps of Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, who are in the southern battlefield base camp, he is too lazy to manage. I haven't come back for a year and a half, and I really miss everything here. The only pity is that there are 4 old men and old ladies sitting above them who are neither useful nor admired. Although it doesn't matter much to me so far, Wu-Wen, who is familiar with the plot, knows. As long as Konoha's genius ninja is going to be disgusted by these 4 old guys, or the 3 old guys behind Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hey, whoever comes in, come and register. As soon as Wu-Wen stepped into the gate of the village, he heard the call of the guard registering ninja from the left. When I heard it again, the voice was really familiar. Turning his head and looking, the eyes of both sides faced each other, both surprised. You, the other 2 looked surprised. Wu-Wen immediately laughed and walked up, ha ha ha, isn't this the gatekeeper duo? Let me just say, you will definitely be in this position in the future, how about it? Not bad. The 2 currently sitting at the registration desk are officially Gangza Tetsu and Kamaizuki Izumo. They have not yet become Chunin, but because of the current war, most of Chunin Jonin was sent out. The few Chunin and Jonin who remained in the village were basically assigned important tasks. Tasks that are not difficult, such as watching the gate and patrolling, are basically handed over to genin. I said that we are not called Guardian Duo. We are Shinayu Izumo and Gangzisha, so remember. Gangzisha and Shinayu Izumo shouted angrily, but they didn't dare to be angry. Wu-Wen made a big splash on the front line. Kamui's performance has been passed back to Konoha. What's more, the 2 people who have known Wu-Wen since their student days are very clear about how lawless Wu-Wen is. Regardless of your identity and background, as long as you offend yourself, beat yourself first. Ha ha ha, it's just a small matter. Wu-Wen smiled and patted the shoulders of the 2 of them a few times, and said, work hard, this job will accompany you all your life, haha. The 2 men looked black. Do this in your life? Although it's not a humiliating job, it's too ordinary, right? Aren't you on the frontline battlefield? How do you come back? Gangze Taiyakyang held back the feeling of crying and asked aloud. Wu-Wen opened his mouth slightly, and when he was about to answer, he heard an incredibly surprised voice behind him, install. Wu-Wen turned and looked. She has slightly curly waist and black hair, and is wearing a black dress-like female ninja costume. The underwear and pantyhose are all dressed in the same net stocking-like female ninja dress as Miku Anko. Although only about 13 or 14 years old, it is already slim and graceful. It is Ta Rihong. Not waiting for Wu-Wen to answer. With tears in the corners of Ta Rihong's eyes, she threw herself into Wu-Wen, who was a full head higher than himself. I miss you so much. The pretty face was completely buried in Wu-Wen's arms, tears fell straight down because of excessive excitement, and he said slurred. Seeing that Wu-Wen was too lazy to care about the 2 of them, Gangzisha and Shinayu Izumo, who had been stuffed with a ration, could only pretend not to see them, and turned their eyes to the other side. The work done by Ta Rihong, who has become Chunin, is not difficult. Basically, they patrol the official road outside Konoha village every day, prevent other secret agents or spies from Ninja Village from infiltrating. After a few minutes, Ta Rihong slightly raised her eyes from Wu-Wen Yuexiang and wiped the tears on her face. Her mood became a little calmer, but she was still excited and unable to speak. Why did you come back suddenly? Isn't the war still over? Wu-Wen smiled upon hearing the words, this ninja world I can go wherever I want, who can control it? So arrogant. The Steel Iron, Shinyuki Izumo, and the few Konoha shinobi passing by at the back heard these words, and at the same time complained inwardly, but they were also speechless to refute. Kill 3rd Raikage and hit 3rd Suchikage hard. Such a record is indeed qualified to say such things. Those who can threaten Wu-Wen now have at least a level above the 6 paths level of Depend. But at this time, Uchiha Madara should have entrusted Infinite Tsukuyomi's troubles to the leader. There is no strong enemy that can match Wu-Wen in a short period of time in the world. Even if they grow up in a few years, by then, Wu-Wen himself still doesn't know how far they have grown. It doesn't matter if you don't report to Master Hokage. Ta Rihong is still a Konoha shinobi, and he can't help but feel a little worried about Wu-Wen's arbitrary behavior. What can the old man do? If it weren't for me, Rock Shinobi would have been defeated in the first battle without any scruples. He uttered the crazy words that stunned the people around him. Wu-Wen lightly chuckled his forehead on the red eve of the night. I haven't seen you in more than a year. Do you have a good relationship with Papaya Na? You know I hate. Don't, others are watching. The face was itchy by Wu-Wen's breath, and Shi Rihong's face turned red. Let them see. Although Wu-Wen planned to say so, but thinking that Ta Rihong's face was so thin, he still hugged her in his arms and instantly disappeared in place. Really, really crazy, dare to say anything like this at will. On the same patrol team as Yurihong, a female ninja about 25 years old slapped a snake. He really has the right to say that. If it weren't for age, this guy would be a popular candidate for 4th Hokage. Chunin, another middle-aged man, said solemnly. What's the thing on his back? Another genin who was passing by asked curiously. The middle-aged Chunin was stunned for a moment, remembering for a moment, as if thinking of something, and tremblingly said, that seems to be the big sword Samehada, the head of Miss Shinobi. All of a sudden, Quan Superwell entered a state of silence. The 7 ninja swords treated their sabers as life. Now that this knife is in Wuwen's hand, doesn't it mean that the 7 ninja swords have been? Everyone couldn't believe it anymore. Tsunade, no, it should be said that it is the home of Wuwen and Tsunade. As soon as he entered the room, Wuwen casually threw Samehada, the big knife that everyone had just talked about, to the ground. After several laps on the ground, Samehada was thrown directly into the yard. Ta Rihong only felt that she was severely bound, and then a familiar and domineering thing came into her lips. Subsequently, it was captured frantically. About an hour and a half later, Shi Rihong did not go home, but stood in the bathroom and used Wuwen's toothbrush to rinse her mouth continuously. The female ninja clothes on her were replaced by Tsunade's casual clothes that looked a little oversized on her. The slightly turbulent hair shows that she has just taken a shower. Chu Hiwuan looked at Shi Rihong speechlessly, and said, I've been rinsing for more than 10 minutes, aren't you afraid to brush your teeth thinly? Seeing Shi Rihong shook his head, Wuwen didn't force it. After all, Yurihong's small arms waved the dumpling muscles, and it was against him to think about it. Then let's buy a sword stand. The head of Miss Shinobi is hung as a decoration at home. Isn't it great? Hearing Wuwen's words, Samehada almost wanted to cry. Instead of this, you shouldn't have followed Wuwen to Konoha. No, Ta Rihong refused without even thinking about it. Seeing Wuwen frown slightly, Shi Rihong slapped him on the shoulder in an annoyed manner. You be asterisk 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 D. I'm wearing Mrs. Tsunade's clothes. Go out like this, how do you let me see people? Wuwen suddenly realized, laughed blankly, and said, okay, I'll get it for you. After speaking, Wuwen instantly disappeared in place with a shave. Although he did not intend to use Samehada, Yurihong was still a little curious about this prestigious shinobi sword, and reached out to hold the handle of Samehada. If you were an ordinary person, Samehada would definitely have stretched out his barb and pierced the other's hand to the heart. It doesn't have the guts to know the relationship between Shi Rihong and Wu An. In less than 10 minutes, Wuwen came back with a pile of clothes and spread them on the tatami in the room. What are you doing with so many hugs? Ta Rihong said in surprise. I will live here in the future, do you want to go back and live alone if I come back? Wuwen asked naturally. Hearing Wuwen's words, thinking of what happened just now, Ta Rihong's face turned red and said, Salang, you just want to do that kind of thing, right? Wuwen didn't answer, and silence meant acquiescence. Because Yurihong is still a little short of 14 years old and can't finish it. But in fact there are a lot of things that can be done. After finally experiencing that taste, how can I let it go? He ran to the next room, blushing, and changed his clothes. Wuwen directly grabbed Shi Rihong's little hand and smiled, go. Take you around, but I take the initiative to take you out. Thank you very much. Ta Rihong gave him a fierce look, but still cleverly stuck her head on, looking like a little bird. The two first went to Konoha's largest weapon shop and bought a knife holder for Samehada to use on the wall. The boss did not hesitate to give such a small thing directly to Wuwen, which is his honor. Although the village was not as lively as it was in peace times during the war, it was already a paradise compared to the boring military camp. Wuwen accompanied Shi Rihong to many places in one breath. For the emergence of Wuwen, the attitude of the villagers and ninjas has changed from fear to awe. But I'm afraid Wuwen is really hard to reach the level of respect and love that Namikaze Minato can do. The main reason is that Wuwen's acting style is too lawless. Of course, he doesn't care about it himself. It was already afternoon when Wuwen came back. After that, I rioted at home for more than an hour. It didn't take long for the two of them to stroll around before night had fallen. Back home, Wuwen stretched out and hung it on the knife holder on the wall in Samehada's crying mood. And Ziriong is the beginning of Xianwei's paving. Hey, why are you spreading too? Suddenly, seeing the two ground floors paved by Shi Rihong, Wuwen was rather unhappy. Ta Rihong's movements were stagnant, and her little mouth pursed involuntarily. Isn't it because you guys want to make things worse? He hugged Shi Rihong into his arms, and under the anger and shame of the other person, Wuwen pulled him and covered them with a quilt. The next moment, a youthful concerto suddenly came from the room. Early the next morning, I felt a sticky army on my body. Ta Rihong hurried to Yushi once again. Soon after the two of them washed, suddenly, a dark shadow fell in the courtyard. The two turned their heads and looked. It was an Umbu member wearing a gray vest and an animal mask. Manos bowed their heads and said, Jonin Wuwen, Master Hokage summons you. Wu-en only glanced at the other person, and then continued to enjoy the breakfast made by Yurihong himself, which embarrassed the Umbu ninja who did not get a response. When Wu-en put down his chopsticks, he said, "Are you Umbu or Root?" Frowning under the mask, the ninja replied, "Umbu." Wu-en nodded. "Well, in this case, I will not plan your legs and inform you Umbu others. Next time you find me, knock on the door first, otherwise I will not be as kind as I am today. Conquerors is not distributed, just pure momentum." Umbu ninja sweats profusely and said hurriedly, "Yes, yes." The Umbu ninja fled away. Because Umbu is directly under Hokage, it can be said that no one can control them except Hokage. So this kind of free access behavior is also cultivated. And Wu-en's words really scared them, because everyone at Konoha village knows that Wu-en is a person who can definitely do it. Even if he said, "I'm going to beat Hokage," don't doubt it. He can definitely do it. You are really, honestly offending people like this. You are not afraid of accidents, Ta Rihong yelled. It was the same as Tsunade's worry, because Wu-en's style of acting was really public, which made her a little worried. How can I live if I'm afraid of this and that? Don't worry, no one can do anything to me. Wu-en walked over and printed it on Ta Rihong's shield for a while, and then released it when her mouth became a little swollen. "When it is after a meal to exercise, I will go see what the old man wants to do." Ta Ri gave him a red and white look. "Okay, go now." There is no ordinary ninja who is rushed by Hokage's orders without stopping. Wu-en is really like exercising after a meal, walking towards the Hokage building 507. When I arrived, more than half an hour had passed. Entering the office, in addition to Sarutobi Hiruzen, I did not expect Yutaten Koharu and Mitokato Homura. Spray. Wu-en raised his brows slightly, and the disgust on his face was completely written on his face, making all three old people in the office a black line. This is too obvious, right? Okay, father third generation, what's the matter? Wu-en asked. Wu-en, as Konoha Jonin, why did you go back to the village without being summoned? Sarutobi Hiruzen has not answered yet, but Yutaten Kohara speaks first. Wu-en was so popular in the Third Ninja World War that it even surpassed Namikaze Minato. Moreover, his character is difficult to control and must be suppressed. Yutaten Koharu and Mitokato Homura at this time are not as old as they were at the beginning of the plot, but the bloatedness belonging to the elderly has become apparent. Old man third generation, what are you looking for? I don't want to ask for the third time. Wu-en spoke again. However, the title has changed from old man to old man. Suffice it to say that his good mood early in the morning was ruined a lot. Yutaten Koharu, the top leader of Konoha's Ministry of Government, couldn't hold back his face when Wu-en was so grandiosely ignored. Yutaten Kohara frowned and said with a blue face, "Wu-en, I'm asking you." Boom boom. An invisible wave swept across, close to Yutaten Koharu. In the next moment, the bloated old woman over half 100 years old had her eyes white, and she fainted on the table with foaming foam at her mouth. Koharu, Mitokato Homura on the other side exclaimed. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes were full of surprise, and he said to himself, "Is this the rumored conqueror's haki?" Wu-en, you. Mitokato Homura spoke in resentment, but just said 3 words and did not dare to continue, because he knows that once he speaks, he will end up like Yutaten Koharu. "Sorry, I feel nauseous when I see ugly women's instincts." Wu-en apologized insincerely, and then turned around to leave. "It seems that there is nothing wrong, I will leave first." Slow down, and, seeing that Wu-en was really planning to leave, Sarutobi Hiruzen hurriedly stopped and said, "I called you here mainly to understand the current situation in the southern battlefield." Wu-en's movements were stagnant, and then turned around. "This is a small matter, just let Jiraiya or Minato fly the eagle to pass the book." The corners of Sarutobi Hiruzen's mouth twitched. This kid really can't speak at all. I can't say that it's because I really want to see Wu-en's attitude, right? Ha ha ha, after all, you are the hero of this ninja world war, and we have to listen to your views. Sarutobi Hiruzen touched his beard and smiled. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't believe Wu-en fart, but he still said perfunctorily, "There's nothing more to say, right? Rock Shinobi's truce agreement should also be finalized. When the time comes, Orochimaru, Tsunade and other reinforcements will arrive, and Miss Shinobi can't resist it." Sarutobi Hiruzen touched his beard again and nodded. "Well, what you said makes sense. Okay, then I'll go first," Wu-en said, ready to turn around and leave. Mitokato Homura quickly winked at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Upon seeing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen hurriedly stopped and said, "I am too old, and I should almost consider the next generation of Hokage candidates, and, if it were you, who would you choose?" This is also an important reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen called Wu-en this time. Sarutobi Hiruzen himself still has a number of 13. He knew that in this third ninja world war, he made too many mistakes. Hokage's position is absolutely unretainable, so he must abdicate and let him succeed. Before that, Sarutobi Hiruzen and the elders must figure out what the attitude of the strong in the village is, especially Wu-en, a strong new star who will definitely become the pillar of the village in the future. And this topic has indeed aroused Wu-en's interest. After speculating on the thoughts of these old guys, Wu and Kaido, well, from the perspective of age, seniority, and strength, Tsunade, Mr. Orochimaru, Mr. Jiraiya, and Senior Namikaze Minato are all suitable candidates. Who should be chosen? Discuss. Unexpectedly, Wuan, who has such a character, responded so official. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Mito Kato Homura couldn't help being taken aback. Immediately, Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and said, "Didn't you target Hokage?" Wuan smiled and said, "Why? I also know it in my heart. It is impossible to bear the name of Shadow at this age, and this position is too tired. Okay, sir, I retire." After Wuan smiled, he turned and left the office. Boom! After the office door was closed, Mito Kato Homura asked his men to take Yudin Koharu, who had fainted, to Konoha Hospital. Then he said with a cold face, "It's not just a kid who is only good at using force, but it's also very scheming." As he said, Mito Kato Homura turned to look at Sarutobi Hiruzen. According to his relationship with Tsunade, he will definitely support Tsunade in the upper position. Orochimaru's evaluation of Sarutobi Hiruzen is very accurate. Sarutobi Hiruzen is also an individual after all, and he will also have his own selfishness. Wuan is indeed unable to participate in 4th Hokage selection due to age and seniority issues, but if he is running for the 5th generation or the 6th generation, he is definitely the hottest candidate. But at that time, it was a question whether Sarutobi Hiruzen was still alive. Although he abdicated, Sarutobi Hiruzen will not be reconciled. At least, he wants to choose a new Hokage that will benefit him. Tsunade doesn't respect himself, and Orochimaru has a big character problem. The most suitable one is undoubtedly Jiraiya. But Jiraiya has repeatedly hinted that he is not interested in Hokage's position. Then the best candidate is Namikaze Minato, who inherited Jiraiya's thoughts. Although compared with Tsunade and Orochimaru, Namikaze Minato is indeed relatively weak due to age and qualifications. But he still hopes that Namikaze Minato will take the position of 4th Hokage. Back home, Wuan pillowed on Shirihong's extremely soft legs, which were different from a few years ago, thinking about the choice of 4th Hokage. Of course, Sarutobi Hiruzen, a traverser, can think of the things that the old guys thought of. It seems that there will be a political competition in the future. Haha, Wuan couldn't help but yawn. At this time, a familiar excitement came into Wuan and Shirihong's ears. "N, you are really back. Look up." I saw that Anko, who was over 10 years old this year, ran towards the two of them excitedly, holding a string of 3 color balls in each hand. On the way, the couple swallowed the balls into their stomachs. "I've said it all, I want to call a teacher." Wuan knocked on the head of Anko, who was running over. In fact, he didn't care about the title problem, but suddenly wanted to take down this naughty girl. Covering his head and glaring at Wuan, Anko went directly next to the two of them, and said excitedly, "I have heard a lot of the heroic deeds of you in the front line in Konoha. I envy Shisui, that guy. I really want to go, and, can you tell me something, okay?" Anko shook Wuan's arm. As long as she was there, he would never be quiet. Squeezing Anko's fat face, Wuan grinned and said, "Is it because you haven't trained according to the schedule I gave you for more than a year, and you feel a lot fatter?" Anko trembled and said stiffly, "Ahaha, how is it possible? I'm trying to finish it every day." "Really? From tomorrow, I will personally supervise you." "No." In the next second, Anko's screams spread all over the street. "At dinner time, the thought of my leisurely days for more than a year will soon be gone." Anko kept sending food to his stomach as if venting. "Eat, eat. Anyway, starting tomorrow, the hellish penance is coming back." When Anko gobbled it down, she felt like she was about to cry. Suddenly, Anko, who was still holding food in his mouth, noticed the dumpling muscles hanging on the wall, and asked vaguely, "Hey, then, is it oozing?" Bang! Wuan rewarded Anko with an iron fist of love and said in disgust, "Don't talk with rice, it sprayed to my side." Anko glared at him aggrievedly. After swallowing the food in his mouth, he pointed at Samehada with his chopsticks. "What is that?" "There are stabbing knives all over the body," Red Smile explained. "That's the trophies that N won on the southern battlefield not long ago." With that said, Shirihong repeated the original words Wuan had explained to him intact to Anko. "Great, great." Anko was full of eyes and exclaimed, I've heard of it. It is rumored that Samehada, the strongest of Mist Shinobi's 7 ninja swords, can even absorb chakra for the owner to use, but I didn't expect to see it with my own eyes." After exclaiming, there was silence for about 5 seconds. Anko rolled his eyes, and suddenly leaned towards Wuan, acting like a baby. Not teacher Anko, who was a female man on weekdays, suddenly spoiled herself, not to mention Wuan. Even Shirihong almost spit out the rice in her mouth. "Just let it out if you have a fart." Wuan was full of black lines. He is now covered with goosebumps. Anko did not take into account the nausea in Wuan's eyes and the black lines on his face, and continued to use an unnatural coquettish tone. "If you put Samehada there, it means you don't need it. In that case, why not give it to the lovely disciple?" "You say it's my disciple now." Wuan looked at Anko, who had already put his hands on his arms. "This girl is also cheeky outside." "What? People have always admired the teacher, but I'm usually embarrassed to say it. Anko blinked and said. Wooen thought for a while. He really didn't expect to give Samehada to Anko, because the aptitude shown in this girl's original work is really not so good. It also reaches the level of special Jonin. Even if you have your own teaching, you must reach the limit of the Jonin elite, right? And she doesn't use a knife in the original book, so Wooen didn't consider Anko at first. But Anko is indeed the person on her side. She didn't lie about this. And Samehada is also placed. Then you try. Wooen nodded in agreement. Anko uses Samehada, which seems quite interesting. If you use it well, you might reach the peak of Jonin, and even quasi-photographing is not impossible. Yeah. Thank you, teacher. Muah. 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 Excited Anko uttered several mouthfuls on Wooen's side face. It's disgusting, there's still vegetable oil. There is no romantic feeling of Tsunade and Ongshi, even if there is a little, it is ruined by the greasy touch. Ta Rihong watched this scene funny. He didn't put Anko, a girl who was only over 10 years old, in that position. And Anko is excited to remove Samehada. And now, Samehada's length is longer than her height. Holding it in the hand, it really violates the sense of harmony. I decided to use it. I must use it to become Konoha's amazing female ninja. Anko held Samehada excitedly. Samehada didn't even attack. Wooen was a little curious. He didn't know, compared to being used as an ornament for a lifetime and being used by a little girl, Samehada still feels that the latter should be more comfortable. Big. Early in the morning. The public training ground outside Konoha village. Anko was sweating like rain, and he wielded the big sword Samehada, which was much taller than his own height. Not far away, Wooen sat in the shade of a tree for a long time, eating a breakfast sandwich made by his lover, while watching Anko. The first is basic training 5,000 swings of the knife. This girl unexpectedly did not complain. I'm afraid she really wants to use Samehada. But in the future, the girl should not integrate with Samehada like Kisame. Although the fat lady is also unsightly, it is more terrifying, okay? Although Wooen and Anko don't understand swordsmanship, but Uchiha Shisui understands. Although it is different from his agile and elegant knife skills, the foundation is the same. After only half a year, Anko must lay a solid foundation in order to be able to use Samehada. It didn't take long before Anko's outer shirt was completely soaked. She was so careless that she didn't know whether she was like this, or because she was too relieved of N.A.N throw the outer shirt directly aside. She wore a tight-fitting net-like female ninja costume and began to swing the knife. Of course, a 10-year-old tablet is nothing good at all. But remember that this girl also wears this way when she grows up? She has to make corrections a little bit. At night, the exhaustion accumulated during the day health-style training burst out. After more than half a month, it can be said that Anko falls asleep after eating. And Yurihong is like her biological sister, gently helping Anko to cover the quilt. This girl is more assiduous than when she graduated 2 years ago, and she is still active. Wooen was quite surprised. In recent days, he hasn't supervised Anko at all, but instead of his leisure time and his practice, he went there by chance. It turns out that Anko has never been lazy. Actually, Anko was really lazy during the more than a year when you and Shisui were away. Ta Rihong packed up the dishes and smiled. Wooen raised his eyes to look at his lover. Ta Rihong smiled and explained, I think it's not that Anko wants to be lazy, but you and Shisui, the two geniuses, are putting too much pressure on her? I feel that I can't catch up anyway, so I won't catch up. But, the Samehada you gave her hope, so she suddenly became so hard. Ta Rihong guessed. Probably so, Wooen smiled lightly. About 20 days have passed since Wooen returned to Konoha. Tonight is the same as usual. Anko, who is basically settled in Wooen's house, still sits at a table with the two for dinner, and because of the exhaustion of practicing, his eyelids are fighting all the time, and he feels that he will fall into the dish in the next second. Humph! Your kid will really enjoy it, 2 little girls live with you. There was a hint of sourness in the mockery. The three of them turned their heads, and Ta Rihong and Anko exclaimed at the same time, Ms. Tsunade, Master Tsunade. Wooen avoided Tsunade's question, but changed the subject and said, I never heard that the war is over. Tsunade sat down, took the bowl and chopsticks directly from Ta Rihong, took 2 quick bites, and didn't have a good air. Rock Shinobi has done it, or Ikimaru and your disciple have already rushed to the southern battlefield, so I ran over to call you kid. Don't be idle at home and have nothing to do. Tomorrow morning, let me go quickly. Well, I got it. Wooen nodded. Suddenly, the 3 women in the house looked at Wooen like a ghost. You agreed so readily? Especially Tsunade, it's unbelievable. At first, she thought of a lot of lines in order to persuade Wooen, who had been in love for nearly a month, to return to the battlefield. In the end, I didn't expect Wooen to agree as soon as he spoke. What the hell? Has this kid changed S**X? Of course, there is a reason why Wooen is so simple. If he wants Tsunade to become 4th Hokage, he must have a greater right to speak. If Namikaze Minato's contribution in this final battle is too great, it is likely to increase competitiveness. In other words, the reason Wu agreed to go back to the battlefield was to grab power. But since Wu agreed, Tsunade was too lazy to say. I just didn't expect 507 to have such two little girls living in my home after I haven't come back for a long time. I don't know why, I feel a little unhappy. Night comes. Early in the morning. In the farewell between Shirihong and Anko, Wu and Tsunade began to rush towards the southern battlefield. Ending this battle is equivalent to the official end of the Third Ninja War. Your kid is amazing. Soon after leaving Konoha, Tsunade suddenly gritted his teeth and popped a word out of his mouth. Wu looked sideways at the other person, and guessed that it was because of what was going on. But last night, because of Shirihong's initiative, I did forget me a little bit. Seeing Tsunade's expression of resentment and wanting to hit someone, Wu suddenly turned around and hugged her directly. The two directly landed on the right section of the tree, and slammed Tsunade's back against the trunk. What are you doing? Tsunade was startled. Rushing from Konoha to the southern battlefield, with Jonan's feet, he can reach it any time in 3 days. For cage level Wu and Tsunade, 2 days are not needed. It was in these 2 short days that Tsunade felt that he was almost eaten into his stomach by this dead boy. And it was not completely eaten and wiped out, or because of being in the wild. What made Tsunade more ashamed and dying was that he didn't have any obvious resistance, but rather catered to it. As a medical ninja, she certainly knows at what age a woman starts, and her thoughts in that regard will reach the limit. Although she has the blood of the Senju clan and the blessing of her own 100 healings mark, she may have such a face to death. But in the end, she is still a woman. At this age, she is just a peach, and water comes out when she touches it. Of course, the premise is also because it was Wu who touched her. Don't say dare to other people. Tsunade discovered that they had that mind. He was beaten to fly directly. Wu naturally accepted it in its entirety, because Tsunade is so much more enjoyable for men than Yurihong. 2 days later, the two came to the base camp of the southern Konoha army. Because reinforcements led by Orochimaru have arrived. Like Might Dai or Might Guy, the inferior genin or young ninjas like Might Dai or Might Guy have been sent back to Konoha. Fortunately than White Fang, Might Dai escaped the catastrophe of the original book and managed to survive. It's too much, teacher, I ran back to Konoha alone to rest. Shisui couldn't help complaining when Wu arrived. He is less than 10 years old now, but he has been on the battlefield for more than a year, and he has obtained Shimmering Shisui and is already quite famous on the battlefield. Shisui, you are too tired to live like this. Patting Shisui on the shoulder, Wu walked towards the center of the barracks refreshed. Shisui blinked and muttered to himself in a low voice, I feel that the teacher is in a better mood than usual. The two came to the base camp. 3 cage-level masters, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Namikaze Minato, have gathered here, plus Wu and Tsunade. Don't mention a missed shinobi, but adding another shinobi, one of the 5 major countries, is probably not a problem, right? N.A.N, Tsunade-sama, are you here? Namikaze Minato beckoned with her signature bright smile. In front of outsiders, Tsunade instantly returned to the appearance of the female hero on weekdays, and said with his hands on his hips, now Konoha has an absolute advantage, right? It must be possible to end this war as soon as possible. Namikaze Minato nodded when he heard the words, and said, yes, now you only need to wait for the final moment and give Miss Shinobi the final blow to end this ninja war completely. Orochimaru said solemnly, it's strange. According to this situation, everyone can see that Konoha's victory is absolute, but the guy at 3rd Mizukage has not withdrawn for a long time, which is not in line with a shadow behavior. Everyone frowned when he said this. They are very strange. Why did 3rd Mizukage fight this battle that has no chance of winning? Only Wu guessed that 3rd Mizukage was 80% under manipulation like the future 4th Mizukage, and it was caused by Sharingan's pupil technique. Although I don't know why Uchiha Madara or Obito's delayed withdrawal, but there is definitely their shadow behind. Namikaze Minato said again, in short, what we have to do now is to wait for the opportunity and break it in one fell swoop. Please be prepared. After the crowd broke up, seeing that everyone else was leaving, Jiraiya approached Namikaze Minato and whispered, Minato, in this last battle, you must perform well. After all, Wu Kid has taken too much credit. Namikaze Minato smiled slightly, Mr. Jiraiya, everyone is Konoha's companion. It doesn't matter who gets the most credit. Unlike the politicians of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Namikaze Minato really thinks so. If the competitor were people like Danzo, Wu would have no shame in making insidious tricks. Usually it's really nothing, but it's related to the position of 4th Hokage. Don't you want to be Hokage? Jiraiya asked rhetorically. He also wanted Namikaze Minato to be Hokage. It's just that the purpose is not as complicated as Sarutobi Hiruzen, just from the perspective of the master. Namikaze Minato scratched his head. As far as he inherited the so-called will of fire, of course he wanted to be Hokage. In the curious eyes of some people, Wu moved into the camp with Tsunade in a helpless attitude. The words of the two are basically the same as the conversation between Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, who are currently in the main account. It's just that Wooin held Tsunade in his arms. Although the possibility is unlikely, I still have to grab the credit from Namikaze Minato, so that I can guarantee that you will become fourth Hokage. Wooin chuckled lightly. Tsunade pressed her body softly in Wooin's arms, and she didn't know if the other party's words were heard by her. Seeing Tsunade like this, Wooin suddenly smiled wickedly, put it in Tsunade's ear, and whispered, "When you become Hokage, we." After saying this, Tsunade's face turned red like an apple, and he almost screamed and retorted, "What are you kidding? Me? I wouldn't do anything like that." It's hard to tell. Wuenyi, Li Xiao, put his mouth on Tsunade, and his other hand suppressed her fruit that was at least 4 or 5 times larger than Shirihong's now. Tsunade's body was softer and completely under the wind. Secret path, what did he really do in his previous life? Will he meet this nemesis in this life? Order 5 days later, Jiraiya, who was the commander-in-chief of the southern battlefield, immediately called out. The time has come. News came this morning that Mist Shinobi is about to withdraw troops. Taking this opportunity, they attacked all at once, and they never dared to attack Konoha again. After learning the news, Wooin excitedly twisted his wrist, and under the stunned gaze of Shisui and other ninja schools, White Fang smiled. The first level of 3rd Mizukage, I just accepted it. On the battlefield, the chaotic battle situation, the sound of fighting to the sky continued. Looking down from the small hillside, all the blood and the flesh of the corpse were greeted. That's 3rd Mizukage. Wooin stood on the hillside, his eyes raised slightly, looking towards the distant coast. A man with some wrinkles on his face, but overall he appears to be quite young. A middle-aged and detailed man with long hair is standing in the middle of the Mist Shinobi army. That's right, he has the blood succession boundary of the Shui Wuyu clan. N.A.N, don't underestimate him. Namikaze Minato next to him reminded. Brother Minato, I have taken this guy, do you have an opinion? Wooin looked sideways at Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato's lips curled up with a wry smile. After Jiraiya's reminder, he also knew what Wooin did for Wooin, who had never cared much about other things. But fortunately, his personality was originally a cheerful type, and he was not good at fighting with others, so he nodded. Well, then I will make reinforcements from the rear. Even if Namikaze Minato disagrees, Wooin doesn't care, but he can agree so simply. There is really a lot of things left. Bang! Puff! Bang! Moonwalk stepped in the air, and there were waves of shock in the air of 507. For endurance, being able to fly is indeed a huge advantage. Especially on the battlefield, being able to move faster in front of the target is also conducive to avoiding. If Gaara is not able to control the flowing sand to fly, I am afraid that he would have died in Kaimimiro's hands in the future battle. N.A.N burst ice crystals. 3rd Mizukage has no extra nonsense, it will be printed directly. The air in mid-air froze into a sharp bayonet in an instant, like a treasure of the king, with 10,000 arrows rushing towards Wooin above the mid-air. Just open it? Don't you even say hello? Wooin made a mockery, but he still wanted to find out if 3rd Mizukage was manipulated by Sharingan's pupil technique. Iron body. The ignorant ice blade hit Wooin's body and turned into dust in the next moment. Some of the Mist Shinobi ninjas who saw Wooin's trick for the first time were all dumbfounded. Finger pistol uprising meteor prickly finger. A sharp blue light burst from the fingertips and rushed away. In an instant, it penetrated the heart of 3rd Mizukage, and a huge hole burst before his moon. It is said to be pointing, but it is completely punch. However, Konoha's ninjas didn't have any joy when they saw this scene, but they couldn't believe it. In the distance, Jiraiya's eyes widened and said in disbelief, No, it's that simple. Although Wooin has reached a new level, he is the shadow of a village. How could he be killed so easily? Not far away, Tomo Sharinan and Shisui's eyes slowly rotated and shouted, Teacher, be careful, that's a clone. Sure enough, the body of 3rd Mizukage, which was pierced by Wooin with finger pistol, turned into an ice sculpture 2 seconds later, and fell to the ground. N.A.N shadow clone? Do not. Not only that. Behind Wooin, the air quickly condensed, and the frozen air turned into ice mirrors in an area of tens of meters. In each ice mirror, the appearance of 3rd Mizukage is reflected. The trick is Wooin's expression moved. Mystery magic mirror ice crystal. The two Tomo Sharinan and Shisui's pupils turned extremely fast, frowning and said, No, with my pupil surgery now, I can't see through. Water style water dragon bomb. Suddenly, a water dragon rushed from Shisui's right side. Just before the big mouth of the water dragon was about to swallow Shisui's body, Shisui turned into an afterimage and disappeared, and then appeared more than 10 meters to the left of the original position in an instant. Shisui looked up and saw that the attacker was a middle-aged ninja with blue hair and a blindfold on his right eye. It was the Byakugan killer Ching, who was one of the guards of the 5th Mizukage at the time of the 5 Shadows talks in the future. The Byakugan in his right eye was obtained from a Hyuga family ninja during this ninja battle. The disciple of Wooin from Ninja World's strongest body art, Shishin Shisui's speed is also well-deserved. Ching Shen said. Have you taken the Byakugan of the Hyuga family? Shisui frowned and drew out his shinobi sword. In the next moment, Shisui made a seal with one hand and spit out a roaring fireball. Fire-style great fireball technique. Seeing this, the youth immediately changed Ji-in water-style water barrier. On the other hand, the area of the magic mirror ice crystal of 3rd Mizukage is wider and wider than that of Shiro in the original book. It is estimated that there is at least 3 times the mask gap. Nearly 100 mirrors, just looking at it makes people dizzy. But what makes 3rd Mizukage feel even more unpredictable is that Wu-en raised his eyes at this time. The magic mirror ice crystal is useless to me. You are just using a mirror to create a mirrored surface. Wu-en, with his eyes closed, said calmly. 3rd Mizukage did not answer a word, and replaced his own response with an attack. Secret technique, killing Shui Xiang. The moisture in the air condenses into sharp ice thorns, but it is not completely condensed into ice cubes, but half water and half ice. It has the sharpness of ice and the flexibility of water. Paper arts. Make an understatement. Wu-en's body resembles scraps of paper moving with the wind, evading ice attacks with extremely high attack density with incredible flexibility. 3rd Mizukage frowned, and to deal with such a master of physique, all he had to do was to increase the attack density. In that case, what about this trick? The next moment, the 3rd Mizukage gesture in the mirror changed. Ice escape secret technique. However, at this moment, he didn't wait for him to release his new ninjutsu. The transformed Ji-in and the abruptly changed chakra were sharply captured by Wu-en's experience. Wu-en's armed fists directly smashed the position of the giant ice blade that was rushing. He rushed towards the side behind him on the right behind nearly 100 ice mirrors. Everything came too fast. 3rd Mizukage had no time to react. At the moment of his death, among his vacant narrow eyes, a cold chakra came in, trying to manipulate Wu-en's will. You are really under control, Wu-en said inwardly. What a strong pupil power. But for the current self. An invisible haki that outsiders can't see or perceive rushes out of Wu-en's body, and rushes back into 3rd Mizukage's body together with his pupil power. 3rd Mizukage's body shook, and the spirit was counter-shocked. The punch that could have been avoided at this time was too late to escape. Click dash. The mirror made of ice was shattered in an instant, also hit by 3rd Mizukage's own body. Wow! Luochi was knocked into the air from the ice mirror, and 3rd Mizukage, who flew upside down, drew a distance of several tens of meters on the ground, only to stabilize his body quite embarrassingly. You have a problem. Wu-en pointed to 3rd Mizukage and said. At the same time, in a damp wood about 10 miles away from the battlefield, White Zetsu's clone appeared next to a mysterious person in a black robe, wearing a Uzumaki face mask, and said helplessly, You are too impatient, Obito. You exposed the problem of 3rd Mizukage in front of Wu-en, and you can't control it perfectly. Is Senju and Uchiha the power of fusion? To shut up. The tone was deep, and it was already Uchiha Madara's own voice. Of course, this is because the Uzumaki White Zetsu attached to him has been involved in his voice and other aspects. But the indifference of the tone is no longer the smell of Uchiha Obito at the tail of the crane. Also, don't get me wrong, Obito said solemnly. Yes, sorry, Madara. White Zetsu apologized again and again without sincerity. Immediately afterwards, a strand of nepenthes rose from the ground, and the black and white Jew appeared from the ground. Black Zetsu said with a hoarse voice that is neither male nor female. Anyway, a more suitable piece has been found. In order to avoid being seen by the troublesome guy Wu-en, the 3rd Mizukage piece will be discarded. Obito was silent for a while, and said to himself, I didn't expect that he could already feedback Mangekyo's pupil technique. Black Zetsu explained, although there are reasons why you haven't fully adapted to Mangekyo and Senju's cells, his growth is truly incredible. On the battlefield, 3rd Mizukage, with a lot of wounds on his body, stood up again, making a seal with one hand. Secret technique 1000 killing Shui Xiang. The air around Wu-en once again formed a half water and half ice form, attacking the center self in a 360-degree manner without dead ends. Iron body immovable like a mountain. Just like a mountain, it can't move and damage half a point. After 1000 killing Shui Xiang fell, Wu-en was not injured at all. This guy, really is a monster. Master Mizukage's secret technique has been cracked one after another. The surrounding mist shinobi ninjas were dumbfounded. In this war, they were already in an extremely obviously unfavorable situation. Now coupled with the fact that his own shadows have been suppressed by his opponents, his mentality has collapsed for a while. From the rear, Namikaze Minato, who cleaned up the miscellaneous soldiers at a very fast-flying thunder god speed, frowned and looked at 3rd Mizukage, and said inwardly, Don't you order a retreat? No matter how you look at it, the end of the war is already obvious. Mist Shinobi lost no matter whether it was the whole game or the battle between the movies. At this time, they did not withdraw their troops, but sacrificed the lives of the ninjas in their own village. This 3rd Mizukage doesn't even understand such a simple truth, right? However, in the next moment, something that everyone couldn't believe happened. I saw an ice blade condensed from 3rd Mizukage's right hand and rushed towards N.A.N. This scene made everyone look silly. Just like the rule of don't stand alone with N.A.N. The 3rd Ninja War, after 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki was beaten by N.A.N. Don't get close to N.A.N. This rule is also remembered by many ninjas. Just like the sentence in the original book, you can just give up the task when you meet the golden glitter, it is a rule that cannot be violated. Even if you are cage level, you can't get close to N.A.N. Not to mention Onoki, 3rd Raikage's physical strength is so powerful that it can even compete with the tail beast. Isn't it the same dead? I know very well that it is not a clone. Now that the opponent rushed over, how could N.A.N. let him go and rushed up to meet him directly? The ice skates made by Bing Dun are N.A.N.'s opponents. Just a touch, it was broken into pieces like ceramics. Bone-armed, bang! It was another explosive punch. This time, 3rd Mizukage was closed. Mystery, freeze, and kill. N.A.N.'s eyes froze. This is the ninjutsu that Mizuki Shiro, who is also the Mizumizuki clan, did not perform in the original work. However, after hearing the name of this technique, Namikaze Minato anxiously shouted, "Oops! Ah! Get out of the area where 3rd Mizukage is." With that said, Namikaze Minato hurriedly threw a Flying Thunder God Kunao, wanting to rush to rescue. But Flying Thunder God is not invincible. It takes time for him to throw out the coordinate Kunao. At this time, the body of 3rd Mizukage itself, as well as the surrounding air, began to freeze extremely fast. Namikaze Minato has only heard of it, secret techniques, ice blocking and killing. It is a skill that can explode at the expense of the body of the caster Shueisha clan that can freeze everything around him to death in an instant, all at the same time. This is quite similar to the principle of the seal of the 4 elephants in Danzo's original work that Suzuki and Obito intend to bury themselves with. Damn it! Faster than imagined. Namikaze Minato gritted his teeth. That's too late. The temperature of everything within 100 meters of N.A.N. and 3rd Mizukage dropped to an unprecedented freezing point. Dozens of people involved in Mist Shinobi and Konoha Shinobi were frozen into lifeless ice sculptures in an instant. Install! Tsunade in the distance screamed and couldn't believe what might happen next. She is farther apart, and even when Namikaze Minato is too late, what can she do? Seeing N.A.N.'s body turned into a snow-white ice sculpture along with 3rd Mizukage. Just when everyone thought that the new star that rose up in the 3rd Ninja World War was about to fall. Just listen to N.A.N.'s voice, coming from the Death Ice Formation, 6 Styles Iron Body Futomayaji. Puff, puffy, puffed. The moment N.A.N. shouted these words, the frozen ice sculptures around it seemed to be crushed by a road roller, and they all turned into childish fans in an instant. The roaring ice barrier was also scattered by a strong wind. Ghost, ghost. Namikaze Minato, as well as other ninjas on the battlefield, opened their eyes wide. In the central position, N.A.N.'s body, they saw it. Like a ghost behind him, it appeared on N.A.N.'s back, his expression struggling with a grim and serious ghost. This scene is just like when Zoro awakened Ashura of the 9 swords. However, the momentum that broke out was even better. Only those who have opened up the Marine 6 Styles and Tyrants 5007 to a new realm can do things. Achieved the special achievement Shadow Controlled, Template Character Monkey D. Garp, completion rate 76.68%. Hearing the prompt sound from the system, N.A.N. couldn't help frowning. 3rd Mizukage is not weak. In terms of heads-up strength, it may even be above Onoki. And he just severely injured Onoki, and 3rd Mizukage although he used the same trick, but somehow killed him by himself. How did you get as many evolutions than when you killed cage level before? When seeing the achievement name Manipulated Shadow, N.A.N. had an idea in his heart. Probably because 3rd Mizukage is in a controlled state, right? And even if he were to use the same tricks, it would be too early. Although he fell short of the win just now, he has not yet reached the point where Danzo is about to die in the original book, to the point where there is no other way. It is also true that the battle with 3rd Mizukage is the easiest time N.A.N. has won against the cage-level powerhouse so far. Sure enough, it was controlled by N.A.N. Dead boy. Suddenly, N.A.N. was rushed over and grabbed by a soft body, and a sobbing sound came from his ear. "I thought you were dead." Turning his head and looking, it was Tsunade with red eyes. "If it were so easy to die, it wouldn't be me." N.A.N. raised his head and smiled, ignoring the incredible gazes of Namikaze Minato and others, and smashed Tsunade's hair twice. Immediately, N.A.N. glanced over the surrounding Mist Shinobi ninjas one by one, and smiled lightly. Who else hasn't played enough? Stand up. Only. As soon as N.A.N. said this, there was a sound of weapons landing. And if there is the first one, naturally there will be a second, third, fourth and the end, less than 5 minutes. All the Mist Shinobi ninjas on the battlefield dropped their weapons, expressing their surrender. In this way, the 3rd Ninja World War officially ended. Namikaze Minato had a relieved smile on his face. Feel free to notice that Jiraiya next to him has a complicated face. For this, Namikaze Minato can also guess. After all, N.A.N.'s move to just lose was really extraordinary. What's more, N.A.N. is only 14 years old, and he still lives with Tsunade at this age, which is also a problem. Namikaze Minato didn't want to say anything about this, he didn't like to take care of other people's private affairs. It's just that I have suffered from this teacher, there is no way, who told him to defeat Tsunade's favorability when he was a child? If you don't have Wuan, you will have to be taken first by a special jonin who is tens of thousands of miles away. Is it better to lose to Wuan, a genius, than to lose to a special jonin? In this way, Cloud Shinobi's third Raikage, Rock Shinobi's third Tsuchikage, Mist Shinobi's third Mizukage, this war, there are 3 shadows planted in the hands of N.A.N. Orochimaru walked over and sneered, he, it's really scary, can you be called the shadow killer? Hearing about Orochimaru, Namikaze Minato, Jiraiya, and other Konoha shinobi around, no one knows that their hairs are standing upright. Not to mention they almost forgot. Do the math, but after 2 years of war, 3 shadows died in Wuan's hands. Advertisement. Although Oniki is not dead, his life as a ninja has been completely ruined for Konoha, he is no different from dead. If Wuan can be 10 years older, he will be the heir to 4th Hokage. But even so, Wuan's right to speak will definitely play a crucial role in the next 4th Hokage election. 3rd Mizukage is dead. Mist Shinobi also lost the supreme leader. In charge of the truce negotiations with Konoha is the future 4th Mizukage Agura. Although he looks like a kid, it is said that he is over 20 years old. At present, Three Tails' predecessor, Jinchuriki no Hara Lin, has been killed. Three Tails has not been resurrected. He has not become a perfect Jinchuriki, and according to his words and deeds, he has not been controlled by Uchiha Obito. As a Quasi-Kage level, he negotiated truce with Jiraiya and Orochimaru. I'm going back, together. After confirming the start of the truce negotiations, Wuan was no longer interested in staying on the battlefield, and asked Tsunade. After less than 2 seconds of hesitation, Tsunade nodded in agreement. To be honest, the previous trick of 3rd Mizukage's death was really frightening. In one day, Tsunade's attitude towards Wuan became a lot softer. Wuan himself was a little surprised. After Wuan and Tsunade leave, Uchiha Shisui 3.3, with a bandage on his wrist, walked out of the medical room shaking his head and asked, "Where is the teacher?" A ninja in charge of guards said, "He left with Master Tsunade." Shisui wanted to cry without tears. Too much, right? I'm hurt. As a teacher, don't even have a word of condolences? At this moment, several ninjas from the Uchiha family came up and said to Shisui grimly, "Uchiha Shisui, after returning to Konoha, the patriarch and elders asked you to go to Uchiha's shrine and discuss something with you." Shisui looked startled, instinctively, with a bad feeling. It took nearly 2 days. It was almost noon. Wuan and Tsunade were less than 20 miles away from Konoha village. Suddenly, Wuan's expression changed and he said to Tsunade, to the northwest, about 6 kilometers away, a total of 54 people are approaching Konoha. Would you like to see it? Tsunade was taken aback, and more than 50 people approached Konoha. It was definitely not a spy from another village. Is there any Shinobu village idiot who sent dozens of spies to Konoha at one go, and still acted together, for fear that they would not be discovered by others? But she hadn't heard of any other troops coming back in these 2 days. Under curiosity, Tsunade nodded, and rushed to the direction where the breath came with N.A.N. But for a few minutes, when Wuan and Tsunade were approaching, the other party arrived in front of them first. Gray vest, animal mask. It's Umbu ninja's dress. 5 masked ninjas dressed as Umbu stood on the tree and said coldly, "Tsunade, Wuan, you don't need to get close anymore. We are back from a secret mission and cannot be announced." Tsunade frowned, and Wuan smiled and said, "It's really an uncultivated arrow. It doesn't seem to be Umbu, but a root person." What did you say? Although the roots are basically Danzo's puppets, they are not without emotions and desires. After being said by Wuan, how can he not get angry? What? Do you have opinions? Conquerors suddenly appeared on his body, and before it completely broke out, the ninjas on the opposite side felt a suffocation that was about to pass out. 2 seconds later, the 5 fell directly from the tree. Without the chakra body, the body of a ninja is no different from an ordinary person. After falling from the tree right of 7 or 8 meters, several people broke directly. Screams repeated. Wuan instantly fell in front of the 5 who fell on the lawn. Tsunade followed closely, but the day was different, and there was no sympathy on her face at the moment. "Well, running dogs, what secret mission is Danzo taking you on?" Wuan squatted in front of one of them and asked with a smile. A rooted ninja gritted his teeth and said, You actually did something to the ninjas in the village without authorization, knowing that." Snapped. A punch directly pierced the mask on his face, and the teeth in his mouth were broken into pieces. A clear fist mark appeared on his face. Wuan turned his head and smiled at the other person and asked, "Say it." The root ninja said hard, "You kill me directly, I won't betray Lord Danzo." Snapped. A punch once again broke the man's mask and the bridge of his nose. Forget it, they were either brainwashed by Danzo, or they were sealed. From their mouths, it's impossible to ask anything about Danzo. Tsunade shook his head to stop. Yes, that old guy is terribly bad, but he is really good at this aspect. Wu En stepped on all 5 of the throats with 1 foot. Achievement: removal of roots, template character, Monkey D. Garp, completion rate 76.72%. Wu En was taken aback. He didn't expect to get the progress value by cleaning up such a few miscellaneous fish, although it's less pitiful. Really, my mood is ruined, let's go and take a gamble with me. Tsunade suddenly stayed upstairs to Wu En's neck, and he didn't care that his pair of weapons, which were at least H, stuck to Wu En's face, and then turned to Short Book Street. Unlike 7 years ago, Tsunade is not at all worried about Wu En being targeted by Danzo. Yes, in this world, strength is everything. Although Wu En's current level still dare not say the degree of sentient beings with late spleen, at least one Danzo does not need to be concerned at all. We arrived at the Short Book Street, which is adjacent to Kanaha, a street for eating and drinking. Seeing Tsunade, who was still wearing a battle suit, arrived, especially Wu En, the demon, other gamblers quickly gave up a path. Shopkeeper, give me 1,000,000 chips first. Coming to the casino, Tsunade showed her true nature completely and shouted with a grin. Yes, yes, Tsunade-sama, here comes. A short waiter hurriedly helped Tsunade exchange chips. Ever since Wu En took the initiative to solve Tsunade's gambling debts, the casinos in the Kingdom of Fire have never thought about making money on Tsunade. Just pray that Wu En will not defeat them and lose their fortune. And Tsunade once again activated her aura of losing every bet. In less than 15 minutes, 1,000,000 was lost. Immediately, Tsunade looked at Wu En with a malicious look. Wu En helplessly, quietly took advantage of everyone not paying attention, patted Tsunade's hip. Under the other's shy and angry eyes, and in the eyes of many people in the casino that couldn't believe it, in 3 minutes, the 1,000,000 that Tsunade lost was earned back. So, a whole afternoon, the two went through the cycle of Tsunade losing, Wu En winning, Tsunade losing again, and Wu En winning again. In the end, almost in fact, with the casino staff crying and pleading, Tsunade took the 5,000,000 won by Wu En and left the casino. It's just that she is really not happy because she keeps losing again, and the purpose of her gambling was not to win, but to find pleasure and excitement from gambling. 507. After returning to the village, he didn't wait for the guard duo to speak out. The 2 masked ninjas dressed in gray vests were obviously waiting for a long time, but their tone was much better than the 5 before, saying, Master Tsunade, Master Wu En, Master Hokage invite you to go. Wu En waved his hands, and the 2 nodded and disappeared. 9 out of 10, it's because of N.A.N. Tsunade curled his lips. Follow him, go home. Wu En didn't care. You don't care about the old man's summoning. Tsunade's beautiful eyes condensed slightly, a little surprised. Wu En chuckled and asked, what? Do you care? Tsunade was taken aback when he heard the words, and then couldn't help but smile. No matter what, let's go. Skin it, super happy. Back home, what Wu En did not expect was that Tarihong was not there. As long as Anko, who had finished her practice, came back with Samehada, who was taller than her own, Wu En knew that Shirihong, under the leadership of her father Shirai Zhenhong, had gone out of the village to perform the task. Hey, and, there has been a ramen in the village recently, let's go together. Anko hugged Wu En's arm and said. Wu En was taken aback. Yo Ramen? Is it already open? That night, Wu En finally came to the legendary Yo Ramen restaurant, accompanied by Anko and Tsunade. In the rumored Etsutsuki Yaku hospitality, I ate Naruto's favorite ramen of later generations. How to say? For this carnivore, although it is good, it is not as addictive as Naruto. But even so, Wu En still showed the talent of the Monkey D clan, eating the bowl into a hill, and was stunned. And Anko, Tsunade has already been ridiculous. But when I went back, I met someone by chance. A little lowly with purple hair and exquisite features, Mao Yuzian. She is now a student of ninja school. Sister Anko, Master Tsunade, and Master Wu An. Mao Yuzian's tone of Wu En was also filled with awe. After all, Wu En's reputation in the village is too great, and everyone knows how to act. Oh, Zian, long time no see. Anko hugged Uzuki Yuyan and smiled. How are you doing? Well, I'm still studying at the ninja school, I can only say it's pretty good. Uzuki Yuyan smiled faintly, and the carefree Anko are completely 2 extreme personalities. I don't know why these 2 people can treat each other so harmoniously. Girl, don't associate with ninjas who are too weak, or you will die early. Wu En pressed Mao Yuzian's small head. He had no idea about Loli, who was about 8 years old, just thinking of her and Tsunade's similar fate. Falling in love with the ending of a weak ninja, she reminded her with some sympathy. Wu Yuzian didn't know how to answer for a while, so she could only hesitate to say, thank you Mr. Wu En for your reminder. And I will live with Zian tonight and come back tomorrow. Anko waved his hand to Wu En, and then took Uzuki Zian's hand and left. Completely opposite character. Tsunade sent out the same emotion as Wu En's heart. By the way, there will be the 2 of us tonight. Wu En pressed against Tsunade's ear, exuding heat. Tsunade is all red, and it seems to run away quickly. Early the next morning, another burst of cheerful music sounded. When Wu-Wen came to the office, he waved to Sarutobi Hiruzen without apology. Sorry, old man, third generation, it's late. And Sarutobi Hiruzen is also full of black lines. It's been more than a day, is this the coming late level? He didn't expect that Wu-Wen and Tsunade would team up to release their pigeons. With a dry cough, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, wait a minute, there is another person coming. He waited for you with me yesterday. As a result, you came too late and he left first. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't know, Wu-Wen also knew who that person was. Shimura Danzo. Originally, he and Sarutobi Hiruzen waited for Wu-Wen to arrive. But Danzo did not expect that Wu-Wen could not be lawless to this point, letting Hokage pigeons go. As a result, he had to leave first. 10 minutes later, Danzo, also dressed as an Umbu ninja, walked in without sticking his cane. With a cold face, the men behind them also came in with 5 corpses. Wu-Wen's eyelids moved. Speaking of it, it was the first time that I crossed over to face this Konoha dung stick. Wu-Wen, why kill my people? Danzo resisted his anger, pointed at the corpse on the ground, and asked Wu-Wen. After returning yesterday, he saw that the 5 people he had sent out to stop Wu-Wen and Tsunade hadn't come back, so he sent people out to investigate. Only the corpse was found. Who are you? Are you qualified to question me? Wu-Wen looked disdainful. Danzo's face froze. Although there was no formal meeting before, Wu-Wen, who was a disciple of Tsunade, didn't know himself, and he didn't believe in killing him. The old man Shimura Danzo is the highest leader of Konoha Gen. Danzo still resisted his anger. Gen? I haven't heard of it, but I know Umbu? Is it the same? Wu-Wen looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen again. Sarutobi Hiruzen hesitated to speak, but he couldn't explain it. Enough, now the old man is asking you. Danzo finally couldn't help being angry, and asked again, why kill my subordinates for, Li Xiao? Do you have any evidence that I killed it? I saw it with my own eyes? There is surveillance video, Wu-Wen asked amusedly. At that time, the perception ninja under the old man sensed the breath of you and Tsunade, and one punch could pierce the human skull. Isn't it you or who? Danzo gritted his teeth. Rely on this? If they die under fire-style ninjutsu, do you have to doubt third Hokage? Wu-Wen was obviously denying, but Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen could not find a reason to refute. Immediately, Wu-Wen smiled and said, furthermore, even if it is me, what can you do? Even if it's me, what can you do? In the usual way, saying this is almost equivalent to admitting that you did it yourself. But that is under normal circumstances. Wu-Wen dared to say this sentence because of his strong strength and self-confidence. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo also knew that this person was Wu-Wen killed. Sarutobi Hiruzen called Wu-Wen to know Wu-Wen's attitude. Danzo wanted to grab Wu-Wen's handle. But who would have thought that he would be so direct and speak so thoroughly immediately? Even if you kill yourself, what can you do, Danzo? I choked back if I was not convinced. That's what it means. Master third generation, I'm leaving without a problem. There is nothing more to say. Wu-Wen turned around and left Hokage's office directly. Hiruzen, you just sit back and watch him behave so arbitrarily. Danzo questioned Sarutobi Hiruzen angrily. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a pipe and slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. Calm down, Danzo, after all, Wu-Wen has done a great job in this war. Domineering is not a big deal at all. Just bear it. Hiruzen, you are too weak. Danzo slammed the door out angrily. Even the corpses of the 5 subordinates on the ground were ignored. Call. Sarutobi Hiruzen exhaled another breath. Seeing that Orochimaru and others are ready to return, this is equivalent to the end of the Third Ninja World War. It also means that his position as third Hokage is going to be the end. Back home, Tsunade has woken up. Wu-Wen smiled and put her upstairs in his arms, and after not waiting for Wu-Wen to speak, Tsunade looked tired and said, no, don't just dash. Wu-Wen's face was startled, and then he smiled, do you treat me as a donkey? You want it again when you come back. You are better than a donkey. Tsunade gave Wu-Wen a sharp look. My stomach is still full now. After a warm feeling, Tsunade suddenly said, we two are in this relationship, don't tell people outside, okay? Wu-Wen was taken aback, and then he insisted, what are you afraid of? If anyone dares to be troublesome, I will go to death. He doesn't care about the opinions of others. It is precisely because of this that he felt that the death of White Fang in the original book was really useless. It's not that it will never be made public, but you have to give me some time to digest, right? You actually have with someone so much younger than yourself. Tsunade murmured. Seeing this, Wu-Wen couldn't help but quit her for a while, and said with a chuckle, now you are not the same as usual, won't it be transformation technique? Roll, Tsunade growled. At the end of Konoha's 47 years, the Third Ninja War finally ended with Konoha and Mist Shinobi's battle, and the curtain came to an end. In this war, Konoha has several talented new stars shining like stars. Among them, Wu-Wen, who killed 2 shadows and severely wounded 1 shadow, was undoubtedly the most shining one. The strongest ninja physical skills, a man like a ghost. This series of nicknames are buckled on Wu-Wen's head. Secondly, it is Golden Glitter Namikaze Minato. With Flying Thunder God technique surpassing second Hokage Senju Tobirama, he reached a level close to the peak of Cage level in his early 20s. There is no doubt that he is a real genius. In addition, Sharinan Kakashi, Shunshin Shisui, and other young geniuses. There is no less famous in the ninja world, but at least in the surrounding areas of the Fire Country, it has gradually become famous. In addition, the Shinobu village of the 3-5 major countries disappeared, and the natural pattern will also change. Cloud Shinobi Village has given his son the title AI when he was in power at 3rd Raikage. 3rd Raikage is dead. AI can be said to be the 4th Raikage without any hindrance. In terms of Iwagakur, even though Onoki is not dead, a strong special steel plate is fixed to the waist. If there is no special method, basically this life can only be spent in a wheelchair. Of course, a disability cannot continue to hold the position of 3rd Tsuchikage. And now, the future 4th Tsuchikage, which is Onoki's granddaughter Kurosu, is only 4 years old at this time, so naturally it is impossible to be a shadow. But now Lao Zi has become a traitor, and the upper class does not want another Jinchuriki Han to become the land. After a long period of time, after intense discussions among the top of rock shinobi, in the end, it was decided to support the son of Oniki, Jonan's pinnacle-level Lois as the 4th Tsuchikage. Jonan was a bit reluctant to be a film at the peak. Unfortunately, there is no better candidate for rock shinobi. Although 5 Tails Jinchuriki Han has cage-level strength, Jinchuriki is really hard to be reassuring. At present, Onoki has not completely retired, and is assisting his son in the Tsuchikage duties. What rock shinobi has to do now is to keep in good health and rest so that the Lois as 4th Tsuchikage can grow up faster. Or, hurry up and train a new cage-level powerhouse that can be trusted. And Kirigakur is on the other side of the sea, and the intelligence is not easy to get. But it is basically certain that Yagura will serve as 4th Mizukage. However, Konoha has been victorious as he fought 3 great powers in a row. When the whole army returned, after the funerals of White Fang, Uchiha Obito, Rin Nohara and others, they began to enter the carnival atmosphere of the village celebration. And it just so happened to follow the mission of Yuri Zhenhong. Yuri Hong also returned at this time. In the eyes of Yuri Zhenhong, who wanted to kill people, the baby girl rushed into Wuwen's arms and took the initiative to stand on her toes and beg not to speak. Mainly because the height difference between the two is a bit big. He didn't care about Shi-Ri Hong's idea. Wuwen directly responded to Shi-Ri Hong's enthusiasm. The angry Yuri Zhenhong is not standing in place, nor is it going to go. I thought I must make this kid look good in the future. However, the return of Yuri Hong did make Tsunade a sigh of relief. Although quite a few, at least Wuwen's terrifying firepower has been partially transferred. In the past few days, I feel that my bones are soft every moment. And in the joyous atmosphere of victory in the war, increasingly important things followed one after another. The first to bear the brunt was the abdication of 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen to run for 4th Hokage. Half a month has passed since the end of the 3rd Ninja War. On this day, all the representative figures in the Konoha Shinobi Circle gathered in the meeting room of the Hokage building. Sarutobi Hiruzen, Yuditen Koharu, Mito Kato Homura, Shimura Danzo. These 4 Master Konoha have the highest authority for many years. Representatives of big families such as Uchiha Fugaku, Hayaga Hayashi, and Nara, Wuwen, Namikaze Minato, Konoha Sunin are such a powerful faction that relies on their strength. First, after talking about the losses suffered by Konoha due to the 3rd Ninja World War, and the following strategies and policies, Wuwen couldn't help but fall asleep. I don't know how long it took before Wuwen woke up in a sway of Tsunade sitting next to him. In this scene, there was a black line around Namikaze Minato and others. Konoha's highest meeting can also fall asleep. This is too awesome, right? But Jiraiya and Orochimaru think this picture is really familiar. That was the case when I met Wuwen for the first time that year. But when Wuwen woke up, he finally entered the most important topic, the election of 4th Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen of Hokage now makes a list of names on the whiteboard behind him: Senjutsunade, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Fugaku. When seeing the name Uchiha Fugaku, Wuwen blinked, but immediately understood it. The reason why this big chin appears on the list is purely because of giving Uchiha a face. And it's a shameless face. But what Wuwen did not expect was that at the end of the list, there was another name, Shimura Danzo. Puff. Seeing this name, Wuwen couldn't hold back, and his saliva burst out with a smile. Danzo looked angry, but under such circumstances, he managed to endure it. Jiraiya, Uchiha Fugaku and others looked at him with different eyes. Dirty, are you dirty? Tsunade passed the handkerchief. Wuwen wiped his mouth with a faintly scented handkerchief, waved his hand and smiled. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Danzo was even more angry, and his hands started to tremble. Sarutobi Hiruzen gave a dry cough and quickly changed the subject. Okay, this is the candidate list for 4th Hokage this time. You can put forward any ideas you have. Everyone looked at each other, and Jiraiya was the first to say, I am not interested in Hokage, so just erase me. After a pause, Jiraiya said again, however, I think my disciple Minato is very suitable. Everyone talked in a low voice. Even people like Uchiha Fugaku can't hate Namikaze Minato. But to be honest, as long as there is a chance, he still wants to run for Hokage. Uchiha is one of the two great clans that pioneered Konoha. After so many years, there hasn't been a single shadow. This is simply a shame. Although Orochimaru did not like Jiraiya, he refused. But there is not much enthusiasm, a Buddhist attitude. If you can be, you can't, and there is no big loss to yourself. At this time, Wu-Wen opened his mouth and said, Senior Minato is really good, but in terms of qualifications and combat merits, Tsunade, who has made great achievements in the Second Ninja World War, is more suitable, isn't it? There was another uproar for everyone. The complexions of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya and others changed slightly. Sure enough, Wu-Wen was on Tsunade's side. Jiraiya said, Tsunade is of course also very suitable, but as a Hokage, we need to integrate everyone together. In terms of personality, I still think Minato is better. This idiot. No wonder the original work has not caught up with Tsunade for more than 50 years. You have a bit of emotional intelligence, okay? Wu-Wen gave a contempt in his heart, turned his head to look at Sarutobi Hiruzen and other elders, and asked, Isn't it? No, what do you think of the elders? You just wanted to say I'm not dead? Many people shouted inwardly. Like Danzo, Yuditen Koharu, who has already become annoyed in his heart, frowned and said solemnly, after careful consideration, our elders also think that Namikaze Minato is better. Although Tsunade has done a lot, but when it comes to Hokage, the reason cannot be attributed solely to the credit. Their elders have also discussed who is in the best position to benefit them. Compared to Tsunade, who has seen them displeased since they were young, Namikaze Minato should serve as the new Hokage, which should be more beneficial to them. That said, it would be no good for me to kill the three shadows? Then the next time the Ninja World War, please ask the elders to kill it yourself. Wu-Wen sneered. Such an obvious ridicule, it can be heard by individuals. But the three members of the elders group couldn't find any reason to refute. Don't you just tell everyone it's useless to do meritorious service from the side? At this time, Namikaze Minato, who is still a good person, smiled and said, and everyone is Konoha's companion. Please discuss any differences. Oh? So who does Brother Minato think is right? Wu-Wen asked rhetorically. This Namikaze Minato suddenly hesitated. Everyone's attention is completely focused on him. After a while, Namikaze Minato finally said, I think Tsunade-sama is indeed more suitable than me. In the second and third ninja wars, she treated countless ninjas with her superb medical ninjutsu, which is not comparable to me. Hearing Namikaze Minato himself said that, Jiraiya and the members of the elders group couldn't help frowning. At this time, Wu-Wen stood up, put his hands on the table, and said, I support Tsunade as fourth Hokage. Who approves? Who opposes? This kind of overwhelming behavior is obviously disrespectful to the third Hokage of Sarutobi Hiruzen, but no one spoke out against it. Neutrals such as Hayaga Hayashi and Nara Shikamaru also began to entangle. At this time, Wu-Wen smiled again and said, everyone present is very young. Think more about the future of yourself and the future generations, don't you? Wu-Wen's words suddenly made the elders' complexion black. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen has frowned eyebrows. The meaning of this sentence is clearly one: these old things won't last long, and everyone should think more about the future. The patriarchs of Hayaga Hayashi, Nara Shikamaru, Akamaika Dingza, etc. heard this and were all taken aback. Although this is very poisonous, it really makes sense when you think about it carefully. Sarutobi Hiruzen, they are all elders who are nearly 60 years old. How many years can they live? In the near future, Wu-Wen will definitely control Konoha's power, and the time will be guaranteed for at least 50 years. Even this time, their team stood on the side of the elders and could achieve peace for more than 10 years. The price is very likely to be hated by Wu-An. When people like Sarutobi Hiruzen will go to the grave in the future, they will definitely not have a good fruit, they will be settled by Wu-An. Thinking of this, Hayaga Hayashi was the first to speak. My Hayaga clan thinks Tsunade-sama is very suitable. As soon as this 507 words came out, other ninjas expressed their opinions one after another. The Dog family seconded. The Akamaike clan seconded. The Nara clan seconded. The Abarame clan seconded. Uchiha Fugaku raised his brow twice, and finally gritted his teeth and said, the Uchiha clan agrees. With so many strong players, it is impossible for fourth Hokage's candidate to be his turn. Uchiha Fugaku still has this close. For a time, more than 2/3 of the representatives of the audience expressed their support for Tsunade. Yes, although power is very important, in this world where force is supreme, strength is more important. What's more, Wu-An has an age advantage. When the three members of the elders group arrived, their faces became extremely ugly. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned. This matter needs further discussion and the villagers' opinions should be sought. Let's go back and rest today. When you killed Uchiha, you didn't ask the villagers for their opinions. Wooin spit out inwardly, but didn't push Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others too tightly. Everyone left the Hokage building one after another. Wooin stretched out and said to Tsunade, although the old guys still want to delay for some time, the overall situation is already settled. They can't make waves unless they assassinate you. Tsunade flipped Byakugan. At this time, Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya walked over. Jiraiya first said to Tsunade, "Tsunade, I decided to travel and write a book today." Originally, he expected to see an expression of dissatisfaction on Tsunade's face, but unexpectedly Tsunade heard the words and just said, "Oh," make Jiraiya petrified immediately. "Brother Minato, thank you just now, I will save you when you encounter life or death in the future." Wooin patted Namikaze Minato on the shoulder. The two people, who were 10 years apart, were not much different in height at this time. Minato twitched at the corner of his mouth. "Why does this sound so strange? And if I didn't support you just now, when I was about to die, you wouldn't be saved." "Where, I really think Tsunade-sama is more suitable than me," Namikaze Minato said modestly. "Then let's go, bye." After Wooin called on the master and apprentice, he took Tsunade's bare hand and strode away. The petrochemical Jiraiya was broken all at once. "Ms. Tsunade is going to be Hokage? Really? Great." During the dinner time when the four people gathered, after hearing about the content of today's meeting, both Yurihong and Anko were extremely excited. "Actually, I don't want to be that way. It's this stinky guy who forced me to be in charge," Tsunade Nuzui said. Wooin took a photo of Tsunade's fragrant shoulders and smiled. "Anyway, this village was built by your grandfather. The third-generation old man has been in charge of it for so long, so it's time to let it out." Tsunade gave him a glance. At this moment, Anko suddenly remembered something and said, "And I wanted to ask Shisui to help me practice swordsmanship, but Uchiha's people didn't let me see him, because Shisui's ancestor Uchiha Kagami was a disciple of second Hokage Senju Tobirama. As his descendant, he is not seen by others in Uchiha. So what kind of people Shisui interacts with, Uchiha's senior staff don't care." Anko had also contacted Shisui several times before, but was not hindered. But these few times, they were stopped outside by Uchiha's people. Tsunade saw the problem at a glance and said Uchiha was also a big clan who built Konoha with Senju, but now Konoha has fourth Hokage, but none of them are from Uchiha. "I'm afraid they are also anxious," Wooin said flatly. "Although there are reasons for the secret suppression of second Hokage and the elders, Uchiha hasn't produced a Kage level for so many years. Now they are afraid that they have seen talent from Shisui, so they are starting to win." Rihong and Anko were dumbfounded. For their age, discussing this topic is still too deep. After nearly 2 weeks, in Wooin's eyes, the 3 successive Konoha summits were a waste of time. Jiraiya, who originally supported Namikaze Minato, has left the village. Namikaze Minato himself also said that Tsunade is more appropriate. Under such circumstances, even if Sarutobi Hiruzen and others still want to push Namikaze Minato to the top, they are already powerless to Revolving Heaven. Even if they want to buy over the patriarchs of the big clans, the benefits they can give will last for more than 10 years. After you old guys enter the soil, they will be wiped out. And Wooin has at least 50 years to live. They don't want to be settled by Wooin in 50 years for the benefit of more than 10 years. Under such circumstances, Tsunade's appointment as 4th Hokage is a certainty. After the 5th meeting, Decision 1 was finally finalized. Senju Tsunade took the post of 4th generation Nuo 3.3, and choose a lucky day next month for succession ceremony. The succession ceremony of the gongs and drums. All Konoha village residents gathered in front of the Hokage building. Familiar faces such as Rihong, Might Guy, Kato Shizun, etc. stood in the crowd, cheering constantly. In the Konoha village where the sky is full of colored ribbons, Tsunade, standing on the top of the Hokage building, received the shadow hat with the word fire imprinted on it from Sarutobi Hiruzen. Wooin and Namikaze Minato are standing side by side, showing different smiles. Namikaze Minato is the comfort of Konoha's development. Wooin is proud of the conspiracy. Unknowingly, it has come to the end of Konoha's 47th year, and the new year is about to enter. Although I became Hokage, I was still used to wearing a casual Tsunade. At this time, I was sitting in Hokage's office. "Tsunade, Anko, this girl is going to take the Chunin exam this year, please approve it." Wooin walked in with a list. "I'll give you a fart." Seeing Wooin coming in, Tsunade directly threw the pen in his hand towards the opponent. After being easily avoided by Wooin, Tsunade spread out on the office chair. "I am so mad. I have to do such boring things every day. I shouldn't be a troublesome Hokage at first. I want to go to the casino now. I want to go to a tavern. I want to roll the dice and have a drink." Wooin put the list on the table, put Tsunade in his arms, and blew 23 air in her ear. "Then, do you want to relax?" Tsunade blushed and instantly guessed what Wooin wanted to do. In fact, this is not the first time. Tsunade couldn't speak clearly while resisting the feeling coming from below. "Don't worry, the people in Umbu now know the new rules. If they dare not knock on the door and come in, they will break their legs. What's more, have you forgotten what I saw and heard? After speaking, Wu-Wen worked harder instead. About 40 minutes later, Tsunade fell like a pile of mud on the office chair. It is true that there is no more irritability, but to be precise, there is no extra energy to irritate. It took about 10 minutes to barely regain strength. Tsunade glared at Wu-Wen and began to correct the documents. Are the remaining 3 old guys still honest? Wu-Wen asked while sitting on the other side of the desk. The red cloud on Tsunade's face hasn't completely receded. Kaido, it's not very restful. Although the old guy Danzo seems to have converged, he actually doesn't report the root's actions to me, Hokage, or just the surface. Work perfunced me, and Udaten Koharu and Mito Kato Homura, the 2 old guys, are against me on many policies. For example, Kushina's actions, as well as the current Uchiha response policy, and the response policy to other major countries, etc. Tsunade Nuzu said a whole bunch of words in one breath. It seems that her resentment towards these 3 old guys is not light. Sure enough, it's better for them to die, Wu-Wen said abruptly. The pen in Tsunade's hand suddenly tilted, and he looked at Wu-Wen vigilantly and said, "Hey, calm down, don't mess around." "What, you thought I was going to assassinate them?" Wu-Wen knocked Tsunade's head and said, "Don't worry, I will adopt a more appropriate method. Anyway, you still want to kill them, right?" Tsunade didn't have a good air. She had no sympathy for these 3 old guys. Even if she heard Wu-Wen was going to kill them, she didn't have the slightest mood swing. "I'm just worried that Wu-Wen will get into trouble because of this. After all, it is not a trivial matter to get rid of the top leaders of Konoha." After another period of warmth, Wu-Wen left Hokage's office under Tsunade's successive protests. Konoha in this season has already begun to snow. The original casual wear was replaced with a fluffy coat, which was sewn by Shirihong himself. "Oh, Master Wu-Wen, you worked hard today too." When passing by Konoha's largest weapon shop, the boss who was an acquaintance greeted him actively, and Wu-Wen's more attention was placed on the pregnant woman with a Chinese-style bun hair and a big belly next to her. "To be born yet?" Wu-Wen asked with a chuckle. "Thanks to you, I have chosen my name, Tenten, and I will be born in March next year." The weapon shop owner grinned. "Really? Don't forget to call me when you drink." After Wu-Wen waved his hand, he left the weapon shop. When he was about to return home, Wu-Wen had just turned the corner of the street and suddenly said, "Does your body flicker technique think it can grow up to escape my capture?" Shisui. At the moment when the voice fell, Shisui, who seemed a little longer than the last time I met, fell from the sky, rubbed the back of his head and smiled, as expected of the teacher. "There is no flaw at all. Sneaky, what do you want to do?" Wu-Wen raised his head and asked. Shisui looked around and whispered, "Teacher, this is not the place to talk. Should I change it?" "Who do you think I'm afraid of, Konoha?" Wu-Wen asked rhetorically. Shisui said with a bitter face, "It's mainly Uchiha people who see me with the teacher. It will cause unnecessary trouble." Spray. Wu-Wen gave an unpleasant cry, and then pointed at the forest outside the village with his thumb up. In the next instant, the 2 disappeared together. The surrounding scenery receded rapidly in sight. Almost after breathing, he came to the public training ground in the forest outside the village. The surrounding plants and lawns had already been covered with a thick layer of white snow. "Teacher, what I want to tell you is that there have been a lot of criticisms among the Uchiha clan recently, mainly about the position of Hokage. Shisui is straight to the point mainly because he doesn't have much time on his own." Wu-Wen raised his brows. "Tsunade should have adopted a gentle policy towards Uchiha? Are they still dissatisfied?" Hearing that, Shisui scratched his face in embarrassment and explained, "Although the grudge between Senju and Uchiha has been a long time ago, Konoha has 4th Hokage, and 3 of them are Senju." After hesitating for a while, Shisui continued, "Although the current protests in the clan are only some clan members whose parents and Senju have grievances, it is not too many, but I always feel that if it continues like this, it will become very dangerous." Wu-Wen exhaled and said, "I don't want to care about Uchiha's grievances. You should know. What are you going to do especially when you come to me? I just hope you can tell Uchiha's situation to Master 4th Generation, so you can at least prevent it before it happens." Shisui begged to bow. To be honest, even if the old guys like Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo retreat to the second line, Uchiha cannot be used to discriminate and separate. But according to Uchiha's current development, it is impossible for them to become Hokage. Therefore, the possibility of Uchiha causing chaos will not be completely eliminated because the Konoha elders retreat to the second line. Looking at Shisui, who bowed his head to himself, Wu-Wen was silent for a while, and said, "Well, I will help you only so little." Grateful, Shisui looked up solemnly and said, "After this, I will join Uchiha's guard. This is a special request from the Fugaku clan and Uchiha's high-level leaders. I am afraid that the number of meetings with you teachers will decrease. You are not a beauty, why do I want to see you?" Wu-Wen asked amusedly. The corners of Shisui's mouth twitched, and the blow was not light, but his heavy mood improved a lot. After bowing again with Wu-Wen, he left with the already quite sophisticated body flicker technique. Unknowingly, time came to Konoha in March 47. the wife of the owner of Kanaha's largest weapon shop, who was familiar with Wuan, gave birth to a baby girl named. In the same year, the wife of Hyaga Hizashi, the head of the Hyaga family branch house, gave birth to a baby boy named Hyaga Niji, and a commoner gave birth to a boy named Rock Lee. Of course, Wuan hadn't heard of such trivial things at first. It just happened to be on the street and saw a couple holding a baby with amazing eyebrows. The thickness of the eyebrows made him wonder if Mike Guy had become the old king next door. The birth of these three people also indicates that the future Kanaha 12 Xiaoqian will also be born one after another. On this day, Wuan stood on the cliff of Kanaha, and when he raised his eyes, he saw that Tsunade face sculpture on the mountain wall just behind the Kanaha Hokage building, beside Sarutobi Hiruzen. Before you know it, the plot has been changed so much. In the same year, the 14-year-old Shirihong and Wuan's companions from Wuan, such as Mike Guy, who were studying at the ninja school, began to challenge the Jonin exam. In the end, Yurihong failed and Mike Guy succeeded. It can only be said that Wuan's system is not very powerful. There is no such kind of pill that can make a person's talent to be upgraded to ultimate. Compared to following Wuan from an early age to train in the marine mode, which is more hard and more efficient than the original, Mike Guy has improved several levels in strength compared to the original. Although Ta Rihong is one level better than the original with the help of Wuan, it is not as exaggerated as the former. At home, Shi Rihong was lying in Wuan's arms, and she had a rare temper. Looking at Shi Rihong's red eyes, Wuan smiled lightly and put aside her ruby eyes. Ta Rihong tried his little mouth, and put it on, not taking a mouthful. "Hey, I'm still here." In the courtyard, Anko, who was carrying same hata for training, yelled unhappily. Because of Shisui's relationship, Anko visited Kakashi, and to be precise, he got the sword technique handed down by White Fang. Because he got Sharingan, Kakashi also gradually gave up the Hatake flow knife he had practiced and turned to specialize in Sharingan. According to him, this is a kind of compensation to old friends. On the other hand, Anko got the knife skills left by White Fang. Although the short blade used by White Fang differs from the same hata she used by 1,000 miles, Anko can still improve these knives based on their own characteristics under Wuan's suggestion. After all, among the opponents simulated in Wuan's illusory realm, those opponents that Garp encountered: Golden Lion, Shiki; Whitebeard, Edward Newgate; Pluton, Rayleigh; One Piece, Roger. All these people use swords and swords. Ta Rihong's face turned red, and once again buried her face in Wuan's arms. Wuan said in an indifferent tone, "My mouth can't stop, your eyes can be closed." Hearing this, Anko's face suddenly puffed up, like a frog. Time came to Kanaha for 48 years without knowing it. At the beginning of the year, Namikaze Minato told Wuan good news: Kushina is pregnant. And Namikaze Minato plans to use the name of the protagonist in the first novel of his teacher Jiraiya to name his son, Uzumaki Naruto? Wuan subconsciously said. He had never read Jiraiya's novels, whether it was the first serious novel or the Intimacy Paradise afterwards. For him, why watch that kind of stuff if he can live ammunition? Are you crazy? Namikaze Minato was taken aback when he heard the words, then blinked his eyes curiously and said, "Uzumaki Naruto? It should be Namikaze Naruto?" Wuan was taken aback when he heard this. I realized that Namikaze Minato was not dead. Of course, the son was named Namikaze Naruto after his father's surname. But then, Li Xiao, Namikaze Minato touched the back of his head again, thinking about it, but I feel that the name Uzumaki Naruto is also very good. After all, the Uzumaki clan died because of the war. The Ming sect of the Uzumaki clan continues, and I think it can be named. Wuan looked slightly startled, but his unintentional remark made Namikaze Minato hesitate about whether his son should have his own surname. Either give birth to a son named Uzumaki Naruto, or give birth to a daughter named Namikaze Naruto. Wuan grinned badly. But I didn't expect Namikaze Minato to be serious. It feels like it's also good. Goodbye, and Kun, I'll go back and discuss it with Kushina. Namikaze Minato waved his hand to Wuan and returned home. Wuan said inwardly, "Why are you having two? Your son has a seductive technique, and he is a male and female." Kanaha 48 years, March. Master Wuan. Master Wuan. Suddenly, two voices sounded at the same time, shouting to Wu An, a mature young woman with a slightly bulging belly, and a little boy about 4 to 5 years old, but with faint marks on both sides of the bridge of the nose. "Ms. Mikato and Itaki, it's been a long time." Wuan chuckled lightly. I glanced at the Kanaha hospital where the two came out. "Are you sick?" Wuan asked knowingly. Uchiha Mikato smiled and said, "No, I'm a little uncomfortable lately." I checked next, and then I realized that I was going to add a younger brother to Itaki. With that said, Uchiha Mikato stroked his belly with a maternal smile. "Second pillar," Wuan secretly said inwardly, and then asked, "Patriarch Fugaku, it seems that there is no one together." A bitter look flashed across Uchiha Mikato's face, but he hid it well and said, "After all, as Uchiha's Patriarch 507, I'm a bit busy." "Thanks for your hard work." Wooin patted Itake on the shoulder and walked past the mother and son. Itake's teeth pressed his lower lip and said to Uchiha Mikoto, "That's Master Wooin?" What a powerful sense of shock. Uchiha Mikoto smiled and said, "Yes, after all, in the Third Ninja World War, although Mr. Wooin is young, he has achieved incredible credit." Itake looked serious and asked, "Now, mother, why is there such a thing as war? Everyone live peacefully together, okay?" Uchiha Mikoto was taken aback for a moment. Apparently he didn't expect his 4-year-old son to suddenly raise such a serious question. Shaking his head, Uchiha Mikoto touched Itake's hair and said kindly, "Itake will know this kind of thing when he grows up, and now it's okay to play with other children." Oh, although Itake didn't say much on the surface, he never stopped thinking like this. It's the same as Sarutobi Hiruzen said in the original book. Uchiha Itake can think like Hokage at a young age. The 15-year-old Shirihong has gradually grown slim. With Tsunade becoming Hokage, he basically spent the day in Hokage's office. It did give them a lot of opportunities to be alone. In the courtyard of the home, the two figures are crossing each other. Although same hata is suitable for opening and closing, it does not mean that you cannot have flexibility. When swinging the knife, don't forget to feel the breath of the knife. Wooin stood on the spot almost from start to finish, avoiding Anko's wave of same hata with the smallest arc every time. Don't just think about how to hit the enemy with a knife, but also judge the enemy's next move, girl. Wooin turned sideways again, avoiding Anko's slash. As soon as she stretched her hand, twisted her wrist, and knocked same hata into the air in one fell swoop. Today's training ends here. Seeing Anko sweating profusely and panting, Wooin flicked it and directly hung same hata on the knife stand on the wall. Exhausted, Anko fell to the ground in the courtyard. At present, Yurihong serves as Tsunade's secretary. Although it is an internship and is not as busy as Tsunade's Hokage, at least he will return in the afternoon. Therefore, Wooin and Anko are basically at home in the morning. "Ann, I want to eat 3 color balls. In the refrigerator, Hong bought it for me. Get it for me," Anko yelled while lying on the ground. "They tell you not to eat so much, you will become a fat pig." Although Wooin said that, he had already put Shirihong's pre-prepared 3 color balls into his mouth from the refrigerator. "It's too much. Don't you keep eating yourself? Why do you say me?" Originally tired Anko couldn't move. Seeing Wooin was eating his own 3 color balls, he didn't know where Jin came from, so he rushed forward. He didn't care that he was only wearing a very thin black net female ninja costume. At the age of 12, there is already some weight of fruit stuck on Wooin's body. "Oh, then you go and weigh it." Wooin looked at the weight scale in the corner of the living room. "Ha! Weigh it." Anko stiffened Kyung's nose and stood up. The next second, a scream resounded across half the street. Wooin smiled and hooked his finger at same hata. Immediately, same hata jumped off the knife holder. "You are treated differently. Why can't I say this?" Anko exclaimed angrily. Night. At this time, in a secret base in the country of Rain, 6 people with orange hair and nails all stood in front of a man wearing a black robe and an orange mask with black stripes on his face, and said coldly, "Hanzo of the Salamander has been resolved. What are you going to do next?" The masked male said, "You are not at a loss to deal with Hanzo, right? Take a rest for a while, I will give you news later." After leaving Rain Shinobi Village, he came to a secret base that absolutely no third person knew. The masked man took off the mask from his face, and a strand of pitcher plant appeared on the wall behind him. After slowly opening, a black and white yin and yang face was revealed. "How about it?" After putting the mask down for a while, Obito put the mask back on and asked to Ju with his back. White Zetsu said, "Kushina of 9 Tails Jinchuriki is also about to enter the delivery period. At that time, there is no doubt that it was the weakest period of Jinchuriki." Black Zetsu said in a deep voice, "But, don't be careless, the one responsible for delivering Kushina is Tsunade, and Namikaze Minato will definitely be there. And you know the person who is the most troublesome." The eyebrows under Obito's mask frowned. "Wooin? The guy who always liked to make fun of himself when he was a student, but overall, the relationship between the two is pretty good. Well, the best way is to lead him out of the village, but so far, there is nothing to do. This guy, he has basically never left the village for more than a year after the end of the Third Ninja War. Because Tsunade served as the new Hokage, so the village no one can control him." White Zetsu explained. Obito thought. Indeed, Wooin is a huge trouble. If he stayed in Konoha, the plan would basically be impossible to implement. Although the order for Gedo statue to seal the tail beast is from 1 tail to 9 tails, if you have the opportunity, it is safer to catch the tail beast in advance. The Kushina childbirth is the best time to catch 9 tails, the trickiest among the 9 big-tailed beasts. Obito doesn't want to let it go. At this time, Black Zetsu spoke again. "There is a very interesting piece of information." Wooin looked at Shimura Danzo, Yuriten Koharu, and Mito Kato Homura of the Konoha Elders Regiment, which was not pleasing to the eye. "I don't know if I can take advantage of this." Obito's eyes lit up, with a 2-point smile in his tone. "This point may really be used. Kanaha, August 48. Ta-Rihong and Uzumaki Kushina, who had a big belly, gathered around Uchiha Mikato, looking at the baby in Uchiha Mikato's arms full of excitement. Wow, so cute. Is it a girl? Kushina said excitedly. No, it's a boy. Uchiha Mikato shook his head and smiled. Ta-Rihong also looked curious and excited. It turns out that this is how a child was just born. Uchiha Mikato joked, "What? Red would like to try it too?" Ta-Rihong made a big red face and said, "No, I'm only 15 years old." Uchiha Mikato smiled. Of course she could see that Yuri Hong was no longer a virgin at this time. At this moment, Kushina seemed to be thinking of something, and asked Uchiha Mikato in a low voice with a worried look, "By the way, Mikato, is it painful to have a baby?" "Isn't it painful?" Uchiha Mikato looked at Kushina in surprise, then smiled. "I didn't expect it. There are things that Kushina is afraid of." "Hey, Kushina, just run around. I will give birth in 2 months, right?" At this time, Tsunade, who was rarely freed from Hokichi's busy affairs, walked over. "Sorry, Tsunade-sama, it's so boring to stay at home," Kushina said embarrassedly. "Really?" After nodding to Yuri Hong and Uchiha Mikato, Tsunade pulled Kushina into the aisle. "Be careful, my grandma also told me that Jinchuriki is very dangerous."